Mayor Scholl, we are recording now, so you are good to go and start. Looks like we
Okay, let's call this work session to order. Wednesday, May 20th, time is 1 p.m. We'll open it up for visitor comments. If you are a visitor listening in, you can raise your hand and be identified and make a comment. So we'll give that a minute, process all that. Matt, will you take them in order as you see them?
Yeah, if I see anybody pop up, if you would like to speak, you can mark yes, no, raise your hand, or shoot me a chat in the Zoom feature to let me know that you would like to speak during visitor comments. I don't believe we have received any written testimony to read.
Okay.
And I do not see anybody making any gestures to want to speak.
All right.
Hello. This is Nathan Smith with Hudson Garbage. I'm calling in.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Good. We still have yet to have that lunch.
Yeah. Hopefully once get everybody open back up, we can do that.
Yes.
So if I may address the council real quick.
Yep.
Okay. We normally come to you guys this time of year, June really, to start talking about rate review and that kind of thing. And I just wanted to have a moment of the council's time to talk to you about rate review and let you know that given the COVID-19 situation and the hardship on the citizens of the city of St. Helens, at this time, Hudson Garbage is not going to prepare a rate review for council. We would like to suspend that, and then given the outcome of once the state starts to get everybody back to work and find our new norm, we would like the opportunity this coming October to present to council again, should a rate review be warranted at that time.
We appreciate that. I don't see that being an issue. Does anybody else see that being an issue?
No issue.
Okay, I'm not seeing any issue from any other counselor. I didn't think I would, but
I bet the community wants to pay more for that.
Hey, Nathan, we appreciate your guys' hard work and continuing to follow the whole when the recycling incident happened and keeping us posted on what's going on. So we appreciate the update.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, look forward to having that lunch with you sometime soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Rick.
Yep. Okay, any other visitor comments? Okay, seeing none, I know we have a length of service award. Dave Elder, I do believe, 25 years. Congratulations, Dave. Thank you very much for your service. He is our new supervisor of public works. So, and he's a good hard worker out there leading the way. So
he is. He's doing an awesome job, and the city should be proud to have an employee like Dave.
There he is. Dave.
Well, I appreciate it very much. You know, been here a long time, seen a lot of stuff, but city's been a great place to work at. And since I've taken over, got a great crew I work with. They go above and beyond, and Sue helps us out a ton. But I appreciate everybody that I work with, along with all of you.
We appreciate you, Dave, for your hard work and dedication. Thank you for your 25 years. That's pretty incredible.
Dave's knowledge of the city is very valuable to the citizens of St. Helens.
Oh, immensely.
Particularly in the storm area, which we continue to try to figure out. So, yep.
Dave, you're making a huge difference on you and your crews are making a huge difference on the appearance of our city as you drive along Highway 30. It's so much appreciated. Keep up the good work, and thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
And I know I speak for everybody, Dave. Thank you for your efforts. And 25 years is a commitment. It's like a marriage. So.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
All right. So let's get on with the annual report from Library Board. Dave and I, we'll have your plaque. Yes, we'll get it to you. Okay. Let's have an annual report from the Library Board. Margaret.
Oh, Okay, I have a quick question. So do I share my screen for the slides or?
Hey, Amanda, I'm going to make you co-host right now, so you have the ability to share your screen if you would like.
Okay,
You should see that available now.
got it. Okay, perfect. There we go. Good afternoon. I'm Amanda Heineman. I'm the current chair of the St. Helens Public Library Board. I'm here today to give the City Council an update on the Library Board's activities for this past year. Currently, the Library Board has 7 members. We are a range of backgrounds and ages, and some members have lived in St. Helens for decades. Others have only recently moved into the area. And of course, Steve Topaz is our council liaison. This year, the Library Board has been involved with several library activities, including the Makerspace, the Book Club, helping out with social media, Trunk or Treat, Maker Fest, access for Spanish-speaking patrons, and the NaNoWriMo, or the National Novel Writing Month. The Library Board's biggest project this year is the creation of a Makerspace in the Columbia building. This new space will serve as home to the Make It program, which will offer STEM and creative art and do-it-yourself activities for elementary school-aged children. As this program grows, the library hopes to add programs for teens and adults. This photo shows the construction that's currently happening on the Makerspace. And in addition, the Library Board had scheduled a field trip to the Multnomah County Rockwood branch to see a fully functioning Makerspace. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 shutdown has put that trip on hold, and the Library Board hopes to reschedule this trip in the coming year. These are also some photos of what will be the Makerspace. They are not particularly interesting now, but I hope that next year's presentation we can show you photos of our brand new Makerspace. In addition, 2 of our board members, Melissa Gale-Run-Magi and Lisa Beardsley, host the library's book club. Every other month, the ladies pick a theme and patrons choose a book that they would like to share that follows the theme. It's a nice way for the community to read books that are interest. They can choose fiction or nonfiction, and they can also give book recommendations at each gathering. The theme concept has been wildly popular, and it has allowed for great conversations at book club. In addition, the library's communications subcommittee has been working with Crystal at the city to provide some online content that's light and uplifting, in addition to the library that provides online content that shares resources and event information. Also, 2 of our board members, Becky Bean and Melissa Gale-Run-Magi, have attended a talk on marketing media in order to get ideas on better branding and promotions for the library, and board member Melissa has attended a library marketing class. This year, the Library Board was happy to participate with library staff in the City of St. Helens Trunk or Treat event. This is a great community outreach program, and we had 3 board members participate. They gave out candy, coloring pages, event flyers, and bookmarks to over 100 children. Another program that the Library Board participated in was Maker Fest. This event brings together local artists and the high school Shrek team and the Library Board members who contribute with running activity tables and general volunteering. As you can see from the photo, one of the activities at the Maker Fest is using the 3D pen. And then here are some additional photos from Maker Fest. This year we had a local maker, Jesse Loggers, who has appeared on Heroes of Cosplay and did prop fabrication for the TV show Grimm. He showed off things that he's made. As you can see, his Star Wars costumes were very popular. And we also had the local business Art de Fay showing off things that they had made in their classes. We also had library board members helping out with the button making table and a sticker making table. And we also had board members helping out with a bookmark making table. It's a great event. It's fun. It gets kids interested in making things with their hands, getting their creative juices flowing, and it also can show you how you can use these talents when you are an adult. The library's Access Subcommittee has worked hard this year on making library forms and event flyers in Spanish as well as English. This enables the library to reach potential patrons who have perhaps not been able to come into the library or access its materials due to a language barrier. And already many of the library brochures and program flyers have been updated to reflect both languages. In addition, the library board member Becky Bean serves as the municipal liaison for the St. Helens region of the NaNoWriMo, which is the National Novel Writing Month. This is a challenge where participants from around the world commit to writing a 50,000-word novel during the month of November. The St. Helens NaNoWriMo region routinely places in the top 10 average words written per participant, and that is globally, not just nationally or regionally. I also wanted to take a moment to highlight the library staff's efforts during this pandemic and shutdown. The library has done a great job of quickly shifting gears during the shutdown and moving their content to an online platform instead of being just in the library. I'd also like to give a special mention to Gretchen, the youth librarian, whose story time on Facebook has been amazing, as well as the rest of the library staff who's provided much needed resources to patrons, as well as providing posts of what the staff is doing during the shutdown, which provides a great connection, even though we can't go see them at the library. And looking forward, in conclusion, the library board in this next year will continue meeting and working towards their current goals. We also hope to tour more makerspaces in Oregon once everything opens back up. And of course, we will continue to support the library staff with their current programs and any additional needs that they may have. This concludes the library board's presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. So I can stop sharing.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. I don't know how my internet is. I see it's coming in and out, so I hope I'm not coming across. Okay, everybody?
Yeah, you're fine.
You're good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, great presentation. Lot going on always at the library, and COVID-19 definitely has kind of erupted all activities. But we're moving forward with that makerspace, and that's awesome.
Great. I'm very excited.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
We are too. Any other counselors? Counselor Topaz. Oh, he's got Steve, you got your computer down below. Maybe it's you, because Matt's got you unmuted. Still can't hear you.
We had this problem last time.
Yeah, Councilor Topez, you might have to turn off your computer and turn it back on again.
Or down in the very left bottom, at least on my tablet, if you're on your tablet, is the unmute button for yourself, and then they'll say you want to connect to audio.
Oh, there you went.
Okay, he'll probably log back on here in a couple minutes.
I will just assume that he was saying very flattering things about the library and the library board.
I would assume that as well.
That's all he ever says.
All the hard work that your board is doing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so our next order of business is the introduction of Port of Columbia County Small Business Developer Mark Ellsworth. Looking for Mark.
I'm unmuted. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good to see you, Mayor Scholl and Administrator Walsh and council members that I've had the privilege of working with. And, I'm grateful to be here with my compatriot and partner in this, Paul Vogel at CCET, and hopefully we can give you a little bit of an update of what we've been doing and where things stand. I'm going to tell you a few things initially, and we can entertain questions if that works for you, Mayor.
It does.
As you know, the Columbia County is unique, having a port district that encompasses such a large share of the county, 51, 52 square miles as we last marked it off, and with a primary response to grow and to support economic development and small businesses. And I have been pleased to have been engaged by them to help business in the county through this horrible time. And I'm here to tell you right now that businesses are suffering, individuals are suffering. This has impacted us and our communities deeply. And my role to meet with as many businesses as I can, and my goal is to meet with all businesses in the county and to help them take advantage of programs, opportunities to work collaboratively with each other, and resources that they need to survive. You know, we're moving into a phase where, you know, we're starting to put our toes in the water for reopening. And this reminds me of something I've said in the past, but I think is relevant here. When we think of the pioneers that built Oregon, the Narcissa Whitman and others that came in covered wagons, we sometimes have this idea that it's the solitary individual out there facing the wilderness by themselves and becoming successful, and we have a lot of that in us. Reality is that Oregon was built by individuals, coming together in communities as communities and sacrificing their own self-interest for the interest of a community. Self-interest is great, but in building communities, there's a lot to be said for how do we pull together as a community and as individuals, and we're going to need that. We help each other.
Couldn't agree with you more, Mark, on that statement right there. That we need each other now more than ever.
Yeah, and especially, in our county, as we shop locally, as we reach out to ours, as we find out how they're doing, how can we help? Excuse me. And so that's part of, my charge also on behalf of the Port Board and the executives to be a resource in reaching out and helping in each community as businesses try to start. We've seen, the different sectors at different places in their efforts to reach. An interesting thing, one especially for our county, is the restaurant world.
Yep.
And that's going to be a landscape that's going to be changed. How many people can a restaurant, what will be their mix of takeouts in dining, extra effort that they'll take. We were joking the other day, a group of us, about this, and this may not be far from the truth, but it's like, okay, let's put shower curtains around, different tables to keep people safe, but there's all kinds of creative thinking going on. How do you keep people safe so they'll want to come into a restaurant? How do you give a restaurant the opportunity to, have the volume that they need to stay in business? There's all kinds of challenges that each store and entrepreneur is going to face. But anyway, I'm grateful to be with you and talk about this anymore as you'd like.
Sure, I think.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Go ahead, Jenny. You jumped in first. Go ahead.
Oh, I've been out there kind of seeing them businesses opening one by one. Who is the right person for a business that maybe is nervous and not quite sure how to navigate who is the right person in our county or the best person in our county to contact.
Well, I'm happy to talk to them. I'm sure Paul is. We can direct them to help them find answers with the county.
Right. I just want to make sure that everybody knows all the tools that the city has kind of made available. We're kind of pioneers at the outreach is what we call a parklet, which allows people to close a couple parking spaces and create outside dining. That we've made that, you know, a permittable use in our community, and that extra outdoor capacity might help some restaurants, might help some businesses, you know, spread out a little bit more to be able to serve people. But I'm not sure all businesses that are used to operating inside the same space know about these extra tools. And so I don't know how to get those kind of words out there. And I keep hearing about that there's funding streams and grant opportunities and ways for these people to maybe get some relief on those costs to get them back open, because I want those waitresses back to work. I want people to be back engaging on our main street again as soon as it's safe to do so.
So
I just didn't know if you and Paul are the right people to contact regarding those types of things.
I'm glad that you jumped in on that, Jenny, because you know, that is something that we know as far as our city is concerned, that we have that ordinance. They can do that. And I would say for myself personally, if it was a little bit more, as long as it made sense, and if businesses are trying to survive, they are in this thing.
Right.
We don't understand. I don't either, because my business is kind of essential, being a landscaper. Grass doesn't stop growing. What the impacts of this are going to be on these, unless you are the individual that is doing the paperwork and seeing the numbers.
Right. I just don't want them to feel like they're alone, and just to be ready to be those partnerships and have the right phone numbers and the right contacts, because, you know, just simple jobs, the amount of paperwork you have to go through to make sure you're compliant is difficult. And, you know, once one restaurant's found the way, it's kind of nice to leave a trail of, you know, Reese's Pieces for everybody else.
So my question is this, okay, the capacity is kind of blurry a little bit. It's like 25 or half of what your capacity was is what I'm hearing. I don't know that that's true. But then, okay, so say I have 25 in my restaurant, but I can see another 15 outside comfortably. That helps me justify employing a waitress and maybe another prep cook in order to serve those people. But just the 25 really didn't check out. It was the extra tables that I needed outside that are going to make the difference. So I'm glad you brought this up. There's a lot of different gray areas.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're exploring all the options. Go ahead, Mark.
Just to comment on, to follow up with that, there may be also workforce dollars available to, you know, they look at that maybe almost as a training function, you know, to get these restaurants up and running. I am working with a group of restaurant owners in the county that are exploring this, and I'm happy, and they're happy to include others in these discussions. But if you wouldn't mind sending people my way.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before I send them your way, I wanted to make sure you weren't going, not me, not me.
Well, no, that's why I'm here. It's me. Okay.
All right, super.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of want to let Paul go ahead. I'm going to keep you on, Mark, for a little bit, because Paul's next, and these are, you guys are kind of doing the same thing. So I'm going to introduce our new CSET economic team interim executive director, Paul Vogel. Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and counselors, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Before I jump in, if I could just follow up on that discussion. I think it's great. Mark is actually out there working with the restaurant groups. We are one of the functions, and I'll talk about this. We've executed as CSET is a small business webpage that is really a collection of links and tools and updates. Is one of the essential functions that we can try and consolidate. Now, the City of St. Helens has some of its own tools. We need to be making sure that we are publicizing and directing people to your tools. Each community's got some. We have local updates, we have state updates, we have federal updates. one of the things that's really critical to restaurants is how the guidance under phase 1 is being modified and refined. And one of the most important things we can do is keep updating the guidance from the state as that does change. They've recently changed the occupancy maximum percentage to 50. Well, it was 50%. Now it's not. In case you're able to actually accommodate it in your physical location, a higher than 50% average. They use that as a thumbnail to start with. So I guess my whole point would be we're trying to get that information available and keep it fresh. Mark's out there working directly with businesses on the ground. And as much as anything, we just need to be continuing to coordinate with you who are hearing from folks, keep coordinating with the staff, what they're hearing, and to Mark's point and the mayor's point, there's been no more important time for us all to figure out how to coordinate together to pull through this thing.
So the follow-up question is, there is cost recovery mechanisms for, like, say I have a restaurant and it's going to cost me, $6,000 to modify my restaurant to be able to seat people. Are there mechanisms to help people recover that cost? Because if they've been closed for 2 months, they probably don't have capital for that kind of investment. Is there any funding out there for those types of things?
Mark may be able to speak more directly to this. There are, there are some small business funds that exist, and there are some small business funds that are in the works of developing. They tend to be a little more oriented to operating costs rather than capital costs and physical change. But there is some discussion underway about trying to make some more money available, not only locally, but regionally and at the state level for that. I think maybe it wasn't done earlier because nobody really knew how to quantify what the physical changes were going to need to be. Are you blowing out walls? Are you knocking out windows? The street blocking idea is a great one. It's something they're looking at in Portland. And if you can do that in St. Helens and the other small communities, you're creating outdoor space. And that not only helps with capacity, it helps with the distancing and frankly, demonstrates very visible activity, which is important for the reassurance factor.
The other piece that I'm getting questions kind of on Main Street is access for businesses to PPE. Our local businesses want to meet the guidelines and standards, but they're struggling to find enough PPE for their employees. Is there some way that we can help, or is there a local source for this? Because they're going out and paying a premium price and waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Good question, and a good thing to be working on, which we are. We've helped develop a program for the county. It's not quite baked, but probably within 24 to 48 hours, in trying to address the need of small businesses who cannot order in quantity, cannot order in bulk. The good news is there is a local business, a St. Helens business, that manufactures PPE and has the capacity to expand that exponentially. And we're also working with them and with workforce partners to try and get that kicked in the high gear. Our hope is not only to source PPE for our own communities, but also to sustain them for the long term as a producer for counties that have reopened as well, and even those that haven't even reopened.
And then a follow-up question. I heard one of you mention to shop local, the Keep It Local campaign, and I wondered if the Chamber ambassador team had reached out to you guys with questions, because they're kind of our people on the ground. Their team, there's like a dozen of them that are contacting local businesses. And I didn't know if they had reached you yet or reached out to you, or if I could send them your way.
Well, I can't speak for Mark. I know actually, yeah, he's been in touch because we were both on Coffee and Commerce a couple of.
Oh, okay, so you are connected with them.
Yeah, to answer your question directly, not only have they reached out with questions, they've reached out with some answers. So it's
awesome.
a nice two-way dialogue. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm just very encouraged, because the Chamber is, as many people know, without an executive director, but they do have 19 volunteers right now.
Mhm.
19 volunteers is a lot of eyes and ears on Main Street for these communities. So
Well, and when people are volunteering, they're doing it, for, because they're motivated, and those are the best kinds of volunteers.
super. Thank you for that follow-up.
Dr. Topaz, I know you wanted to jump in
Yeah,
there.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, back to people in the library and getting together. One of the things that was not pointed out very well, or even at all, in the library report is heat. We have a lot of people that come into the library because they have no place to be warm for most of the year. And Margaret and her crew were starting to worry about and plan about this viral problem well before it officially hit. Now, in reopening, I call them bad breath barriers, it's called sneeze barriers. Things like that, computer use is going to need the containment between computers like restaurant tables are. In the economic world, it seems to be some help. Is there a layover or a cast over where your type of help for getting these materials can help our library? Because again, we take care of a lot of people who are there for warmth, not necessarily to read a book.
I don't know if Mark wants to respond.
I don't think this falls in their wheelhouse, Councilor Topaz. This is
I just wondered because it's in the story of the virus. So I was wondering, is there any, hopefully there is, because we handle a lot of people, we just don't eat at the library.
Right,
So,
but there are
Mark-
resources available to nonprofits as well, because that's what we're talking about. Whether it's a school or a library or a community center, would they be applicable to those business and funds, or is it completely different funding stream?
That's correct. That's correct.
That would be probably, it would fall under that. They'd have to probably apply just like anybody else. I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork, but that seems cumbersome, but I'm sure it's not very cumbersome. And Paul and Mark could probably help assist businesses and maybe nonprofits through that process. And listening to your guys' presentation and already with the Coffee and Commerce with the chamber, both of you, it sounds like you definitely, Mark, you're muted still, so you won't be able to jump in right now. I don't know, Matt, if you can unmute him.
He's muted himself.
Okay, all right. But that you guys are diving right in, which is great. I'm encouraged that that you guys are help assisting our citizens, our businesses in this area that we've never ever experienced, any of us, unless, I don't think anybody went through 1930, I mean, that's what we're looking at here is what
Right. It is, and it's gratifying to see how people are diving in. I would say when I first step back, as a little bit of an update, and I suspect it might have been a while since CSET reported to the council, so it's a good opportunity. I came on the second week of April for the purpose of Chuck Daughtry was retired, and I came on to ensure a smooth transition, do an assessment. I'm a business and strategy consultant, develop an aggressive work plan, and enact some changes. But I think really at the top of that list from the CSET board was small business. We're known for recruitment. We're known for this. We have to help small businesses, and that's really what we've been focused on first and foremost. There are over 3,000 small businesses listed in Columbia County, and getting connected to them all is not an easy thing to do. This actually provides, I wouldn't call it a silver lining, but it's an opportunity under the heading of don't ever waste a good crisis. It's a good opportunity for us to reconnect in a new way. We've gotten in the publishing business. We're putting out a daily e-newsletter, connecting with Columbia County is a very Facebook intensive county. Each community, it's very interesting. And so we put the e-newsletter out where we've got 97% growth since we began it. and we're constantly adding to that and trying to redirect and reshare. We've established a small business website, smallbiz.columbiacounty.oregon.com, which we're trying to link to the chamber site, city sites, in order to gain content as well as share content and keep that updated. But that is, among a number of things that I've been directed by the board of directors to do, small business is number one, and we just can't have enough hands on the wheel. We actually hired a local business to do our new website and on our social media strategy. We've been able to get involved with the county in developing. We're looking trying to develop a grant program as well as a PPE program, and there may be some other possibilities. And just to really approach these things and pursue them with a much more aggressive pace. This is, helping small business also helps communities. Communities are all about relationships, and we've gotten back into the relationship business. We've enjoyed some great collaboration with Rachel and with John on supporting your US DOT application, on the South County regional team, and on a number of the other aspects, as well as trying to tie in community development block grant, which I hope you'll support. Is this lobbying? I hope you'll support. Would be a great match for funds that the county is now willing to put up. So getting out and meeting and talking with everybody I need to is slowed a little bit. But people I have found that CSET or not, people are much more willing to have a full conversation because we all kind of are having a shared experience right now. Nobody really knows what it's going to look like on the way out the door. We have not dropped the ball as far as recruitment. We've got 4 larger industrial recruitment projects that are live right now that we're working with Greater Portland Inc. and the state of Oregon on. Fortunately, those are very intensive for a burst, and we can turn our heads back to small business in the communities and getting things connected. Along recruitment, as well as the South County regional team, is a very hard look we're taking at, not a hard look, we have to develop an overall marketing plan and identity for the business that we're doing on behalf of the entire entire county. So we've got a very aggressive work plan we're putting together. 5 weeks in, we've accomplished some, and we got a lot more work to do. What I told our board last week after the first month, at this point, I look at this as a consultant and doing an assessment. I have not run into anyone. I've run into a lot of folks and had some great conversations with people who had very strong feelings that they wanted to share about what CSET has been doing or what it should be doing. I have not run into anyone who is not open to the possibility of improving the relationship and collaborating and working together and sees the value of CSET if CSET is fulfilling its value proposition. And that's what we're going about now. So we appreciate the support of the city and the participation, the collaboration of the city. Our work plan going forward is to do what other businesses are trying to do, and that's retain our customers, retain our membership, and be able to fund the work that we have going forward, and frankly to earn that trust and that accountability. And I'm looking forward to. I haven't met any of your counselors or the mayor yet, and I apologize for that. I'm 70 conversations in to my downloading. I hope to get to all of you sometime in the next few weeks. But I want to thank John and Rachel particularly for them reaching out and them working well with us, and looking forward to make some good things happen. So,
well, Paul,
forgive my update there, but I just figure now is as good a time as any.
Yeah, Paul. Well, what I can tell you is I was one who was pretty vocal. I was ready to hire a headhunter and, and looking for other options to get newer business in because we have a big chunk of industrial property as well.
Mhm.
And so I look forward to actually meeting you and being able to further this conversation. Yeah, I like what I'm hearing today. Council
Well,
President Morton, I see you.
it's a great county and a great place to be in the economic development business. I've worked in other places, and they've had much fewer things, including quality of life, to work with, and this is a terrific place to be working for.
Yes, Council President Morton, I see you were over there waving.
Yeah, I'm trying to get on to saying a couple of things. It's kind of tough today. But anyway, I just wanted to thank Paul. This is the most encouraging news that I have heard in a long, long time. Paul, I'm one of your original board members, and I've always been somewhat ill at ease when it came to the strategies and the approaches of CSET. In my sense, I just thought that small businesses were swept under the carpet because the heavy hitters were always kind of the big issues on the agenda. Time after time after time after time, going to those board meetings, small businesses really never came up. Now you come along, and it seems like the tables have been flipped. And I really, not that you're going to disregard our huge businesses, our big corporations, but focusing on small businesses in our communities, those are the businesses that give our cities a personality of who we are. And they are the hardworking people that show up at their businesses day after day after day and accumulatively improve our economy and accumulatively keep our communities a place that we can all be proud of and is serving sustainably our community. Anyway, I put a breath of fresh air. I just want to tell you, I'm so encouraged.
Thank you for those comments. Appreciate it. It's a little bit of it is born of necessity, but if it took something like this for, the board of directors and the focus of the organization to really realize what it needed to do in terms of retention and growth and the core of our communities, let's make something good out of that. And it's always sexy to go after the big projects, and you just love to get the big projects because those always generate a lot of allied businesses and support businesses and their own economic rings. But we gotta bring businesses back.
Thank you.
Absolutely agree. Mark.
Mark, you're still muted.
Oh yeah, you muted yourself, Mark. There you go.
Sorry about that. And I think that is to Councilor Morton's point. I think that is the reason why the port has also felt to have me in this position to show their commitment to small businesses and to the entire county and to the cities and the local governments that we're going to live and thrive as we grow and develop our small businesses and as we develop these relationships. So it's good to be a partner with Paul in this and all of you.
And I'm just encouraged that our tax dollars are being spent wisely. And that was a big part of what I was getting from our citizens that we represent is where is this money going? How is it? What is that money? In particular, I'm going to speak up, was a CSET money of 15 grand. What are we getting for that? And I couldn't answer them. I'm going to be honest, Paul, that I could not answer them. There's nothing, it's not personal, it's business. I have to account for dollars.
No, I understand that understand that very well, and I think the board understands that. And I only know how I do business, and my board gets a report every week on how I spent my time and where it's been spent, so they know they're holding me accountable. I'm holding myself accountable. Frankly, we have public and private board members, and the private board members make their own business decision. Our public board members, we need to be aware that they're being held accountable for how they're investing in CSET.
Sure, and kudos to the port. I just want to state this too, because they are a taxing district, and that they hired Mark Ellsworth to assist small businesses in this COVID-19. So, I mean, this is a great presentation from both of you. In my eyes, I'm going to let any other counselor who wants to jump in and have comments that feel they need to jump on in there.
I believe John has his hand raised.
Yeah, I had my hand up just for the point of making that point of commending the port for their, response to small business in these times of great need, and also, the Columbia County for what appears to be a 180-degree turnaround and doing all the things that St. Helens was hoping that would happen. So that's my point.
Okay. Hey, look forward. We're all going to see you guys on the trail. Columbia County is a small community, and we're definitely going to see you on the trail. And I look forward to meeting you in person eventually.
Likewise, look forward to it.
With some physical distancing, not social distancing. We're calling it physical distancing. Yeah. Yes.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other counselor have any questions for these two gentlemen? You have them here right now.
I'm just curious as to where Paul's home base will be when he's not working from home.
Well, I visited our office last week. It's in the St. Helens Library.
Yep.
And I need to do some rearranging, and we've gotten a little bit displaced by. I think there's a childcare operation kind of going in next door, but as far as I know, that's where our office is going to be.
Okay. And then Mark, are you at the port?
I am for appointments.
Okay, so
but the best way to
go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying the best way is to email me and call me, and my contact information is on the port's website.
Okay, super. I just thought people listening at home or listening later are going to go, well, I found those guys and I know their name, but how do I contact them now that the meeting's over? So I wanted to make sure that was in the record. If people want to track you down or ask more questions, that they know what website and where to find that link.
Yep.
Yep.
We have a contact form on the small business website as well. One of our first 3 jobs will be a decades waiting refresh of our overall website. But right now we've got a very fresh, very functioning small business website. So you can contact us through there.
Well, and just a good reminder for all of us to know where to look and where to send people. Less runaround is going to give people more hope.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Our next order of business is to review if I were mayor student contestant entries. So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I scored mine and sent them to Lisa.
Well, I got my score sheet. I haven't turned it in. So I thought they were all really well. There was actually, they were really well, but I had what I thought were my one poster and my one essay really stood out. So
yeah, Lisa just normally does secret ballots and then she lets us know.
Yes. So yeah, I really liked the of course the theme park. You know, that was very unique. Who doesn't like a theme park, right? So I guess really this needs to be put on the next.
No, I think Lisa's
Or
presenting.
Lisa has the
tonight.
results.
Yeah, if you could vote, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear
Okay.
you.
If you could vote and then send them to me, you can either send it by email or text me if you have my cell phone.
Yes, I do.
That way I can notify the families that the 2 winners are from, so we can make sure they're on Zoom tonight, because we'll announce all the winners, or the 2 winners tonight, but we're hoping all of the kids are present tonight.
Yes, okay.
Lisa,
Great.
you have mine, correct?
Yes.
Martin?
Yep.
So I'm going to recommend that they're all winners.
They did a great job.
Everybody did a great job.
Well, Keith, I agree with that, but there's also the competitive side of me that says, everybody, if you give everybody a trophy, then you tell everybody that they're equal, and why should I try to excel in my education or background when we're all winners?
Well, if we had a bunch of people doing it, it would be, I agree with you, but there's only six entries.
And I get where you're trying to go with that, Councilor Locke.
But they're super good quality. It was super good quality, and the effort is appreciated, even though unfortunately there is only one winner.
Yes, that's my.
But thank you for all making the effort. It was very hard to choose.
I have the posters queued up if you want to see those.
Yes, I do, Lisa. Let's show them on because we're running a public meeting.
Maybe. Oh, there it goes.
Okay, we're going to start with A first, right?
Yes, this is A.
This is contestant A.
I don't want to go too fast. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
And this is B.
Oh, yeah. You had that blocked out. Okay, okay, okay.
Hopefully you already made your decisions.
Okay. And this is C. Okay. All right, we will be announcing the winner tonight. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
I have a suggestion for next year. We do this next year, and we make certain that the essays are read so the public can hear them. And we spend just a little more time on the visual and possibly read through the comments that the grade schoolers have made as well. I think it's worth their time. They took a lot of time to do this. I think it's worth our time to give them a good opportunity for our citizens to see what they are thinking. I think this is a good thing, Mayor, and I don't want to cut it short.
Oh, no. So in years past, we have done that, Doug. We're in a council chamber where we can grab these physically and look at them, and we have these and are able to have a discussion on it. This is just a little bit different. I agree with you. If you'd like to grab the bull by the horn and start a discussion on the essays that you've read, then I agree.
Oh, I'd be glad to read them. I mean, I just think that a little more effort in this, in terms of us kind of revealing what the kids have done, it would be appropriate. I'm not trying to make a big deal out of Rick. I'm just saying, maybe next year we can go back to that and do it. I'm not complaining about this year. I know that this year's a different year.
I agree with you, and I think next year we should actually go, instead of $100, we should go to $200, Keith, instead of, that way we don't just get 6, we get more people. 200 sweetens the pot. That's my opinion on it. We can discuss it when it comes up towards next year, which will be in March, I think is when it gets announced to schools.
Thanks, Mayor.
Let's put it on there.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yep. Okay, so we will be discussing this further tonight and announcing the winners. So next item on our agenda is to storm drainage fees discussion. Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet was a one-page memo that hopefully you had time to review. I will just give you a brief update. So back in late 2019, the City Council unanimously approved adding storm fees to a number of accounts that were not previously billed. So that was on a recommendation from our rate analysis that was done by Steve Donovan a couple years ago. So when we put those rates on the accounts, what we realized is that there are about 166 accounts that lie outside the city limits and have an address and have a road that is a county road. Now, we spoke to our attorneys at Jordan Ramos's office regarding the legality among billing those accounts that are outside city limits specifically. And like any good attorney, they say it depends. Our attorney, Tim Ramos, is here, and he can fill in anything that I may say incorrectly or say wrong, Tim. So feel free to interject with me. But in a nutshell, the only way that we could apply these storm fees to accounts that are outside the city limits is if we have something written in our municipal code, specifically in the water section, that says and states, if you have a water account, then we can bill you for these specific things. Since we do not have that in our water municipal code, the staff recommendation is for us to go ahead and remove the storm fee charges to these 166 accounts, and then also refund them the 1 or 2 months that they have been billed so far. This also does affect the recreation fee that was put on. What we found is that the rec fee was also put on these 166 accounts, because initially what was written and what was, I guess, perceived in the original document municipal code was that if you had a water account, then you got this. And so now we have found that out. We'd like to go back and obviously refund the 1 month of fees for those 166 accounts, as well as remove it for any future charges for the storm fee as well as the recreation fee.
Okay, and so I get it's legal issue, but they're tied into our storm, is that correct?
No, they are not. So these are accounts that they are living on a street that is managed by the county, as well as the address is technically outside city limits. However, they have a connection with our water service.
Okay.
And so they're billed outside rates that are different than the inside city limits rates.
So Mayor, let me jump in here for just a moment. It's perfectly legitimate to charge outside the city water users a premium. And you can do that in any number of ways. Could be a higher charge for the service, could be a requirement that you contribute to stormwater, even though you're not necessarily receiving a specific benefit. But in order to do that, we have to make sure we've documented the approach we've taken in our ordinances. So while we can do it, we need to make sure we do the paperwork necessary and have the council make the legislative enactment necessary to justify it.
Okay.
I had one comment, because I know that in the talking about the Parks and Rec fee, I know that if you are a City of St. Helens resident and you pay that fee, there are some things that are free or reduced cost, and we want to make sure that we delineate those people, because normally we'd assume that if they had a water fee, they automatically had paid that bill. And if those 166 accounts get exempted from that, then they don't get a member discount.
That is correct, and we would update those addresses with our recreation software. In our recreation software, we actually put specific addresses that when you register, you have to put your address in. So it'll recognize a certain street, and it'll say, yes, that's within, so you get a, whatever discount it is on that activity.
Well, and maybe not directly related to the bill, but maybe the people that pay it should get some type of, even if it's a paper card or a paper coupon that says, eligible for in-district rates for all rec programs. So they should realize what they're paying for, and they would get that every year when they pay that. Then it is delineated. That would go, and then they realize there's the fee and here's my discount card. And then the people that don't pay would not be eligible. So it covers both ways. So there is a value associated with their fee.
Correct. And specifically on the rec fee, we did have a certain amount of press releases and information scheduled to go out. This was before COVID hit, and now we're kind of lagging on. But for the storm drainage fees, and Sue can probably mention this a little bit more about the optional for those that are now getting a storm fee or may already have a storm fee, there is an option to apply for a discounted rate if you qualify on certain qualifications. Sue, did you want to briefly mention or talk about anything else?
I had a request on behalf of a business owner who had previously was exempt from the fee, and they are going to be applying for the discount that Matt mentioned, but there is an application fee. This is for the Armstrong site, which, if you've ever been out there, is a very large, they have a large amount of impervious surface as far as buildings and concrete and asphalt. So their storm fee, which was previously exempted, is now extremely high. And they will be applying for the discount that is available, which will give them a potential of reducing their fee by up to 30%. But the fee for the application would be around $360, and they are asking if that can be waived because of the circumstances being that this is something that was just imposed upon them and is a totally new feature for a site that is actually not even functioning at the moment.
Sue, I was approached by several residences who have put in their own storm drainage into waterways, and they asked me if they were if they would get a discount or whatever, and it was all not certified but done by somewhat engineered and done by individuals who do that type of work, and they've done that on their own residences. And I can tell you the areas that were geographic areas that had that concern. One was along Milton Creek, and the other is along the Columbia River. And so do you have is there any exemptions or anything that I can say to those individuals who asked me about that, other than call City Hall and talk to you?
There is information on the website that explains how the exemptions work, but discharge into any water body does not qualify for an exemption, even into the Columbia River, even into a wetland. Those do not create an exemption by the rules that were adopted in December. There may be other ways that they could potentially obtain a fee reduction, but there is not an option for a fee waiver.
Okay, I'll have them call you.
Certainly.
Okay, good enough. Thanks.
Yeah, I can show them what the qualifications are.
Thank you.
One of the problems with our sewer system when it comes to storm is a great deal of the impervious system is streets, which drain onto private property. And some private properties have to pump it off themselves. And we have coming up the discussion of okaying the floodplain ordinances. And one of the stipulations in floodplains was a natural stream as compared to a place that now catches water. And historically, some of the places that now catch water were streams, but are not considered eligible for floodplains. So we've got a complex water problem here in town, and stormwater off city streets into private property really complicates things up. So saying things are exempt by our rules doesn't really cover a lot of the problems that private citizens have. And I think a much better explanation of what our storm system is and we have to talk about how much of the storm system's water comes from impervious systems owned by the city and dumped on private land. And I don't see an easy way of doing it, but we have some, we say, bad problems that are not really covered by our ordinances.
Well, I grabbed my water bill here. That's what I was up looking for. And I see I have storm of $11.71. Is that what we're talking about for these residents?
That is the current in-city rate for residents for a stormwater fee. It is a flat fee that is every single month.
So we're talking about $11.71 a month.
Not on everybody. There are some businesses and private, like Armstrong, that has obviously it's not one single house, so it's a large, and it's based on the impervious surface on the property.
But for residents, we're talking
For residential, you're talking $11.71
a month. Okay, and the reason the storm is in place when Steve Donovan has presented is it's not so much about your surface, it's about the travel back and forth, and that's why businesses are charged more, is because those spots are frequently used, and it's the travel from your house to there that our storm is collecting all your metals and oils on the road, and we're doing the process.
Correct. In a nutshell, if your business has 500 customers coming to a day, those customers, even though you may have a drainage system on your property, those customers are still driving on city streets to get to your business. And that's what the fee is trying to collect, is kind of a holistic view of the entire system and not looking at one specific individual property.
Yep.
Okay. So Matt, in your opinion, do we have work to do, or is it all resolved?
I cannot comment on anything that Councilor Topaz remarks. I can only account for what I'm specifically showing you right now and what we control in utility billing. The resolution and ordinance that we put into place back in late 2019 had an unintended consequence, which is this 166 accounts that should not have been built. And so with your approval, and obviously you see the staff recommendation there, is to refund the 1 month of bills that have gone out so far for this account and turn off those charges for the 166 accounts that technically are outside city limits.
John, do we need to go forward on, and Mayor, do we need to go forward on legislative updates for this issue? That was my kind of initial question. Do you see the need?
Well, I'd have to defer to Tim Ramus' advice. I'm not sure if it was passed by ordinance, how specific it was on who it applies to. You'd have to take a closer look at that. Would be my advice.
Tim, what do you think?
Even if it's just
I agree with John. We ought to look at it. It may be that there is a better way to get some compensation for that than attaching the charge. You have a lot of flexibility to determine what rate you charge for water, and that may be something you want to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, typically the rate is established, or the ability to charge a rate established by ordinance, and then the resolution that, because a change is more flexible and easier to change. And then there's a policy piece of it too. That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So Mayor, do we follow Tim's advice and take a look at it?
Well, so in listening to the expert, which was Donovan, who does this as special, he presented to us, and we adopted this ordinance. You participated just not even 9 months ago or whatever it was when we adopted this. I would say my question in that, I recall I questioned, do other cities do this? And his was absolutely they do.
Yep.
You are not unique. As a matter of fact, I'm shocked you guys haven't been charging these residents and businesses storm, was his comment. So I'm not disagreeing, but I would like to have a further discussion with Donovan on this, if we could have him come back, which, I mean, we're kind of beating a dead horse, because I think if we just reword and maybe work with Tim on this, maybe that's the case. I don't know. Staff?
Mayor, if I can make a suggestion, I know Sue is just getting started on the sewer and storm master plan process.
Yeah.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, but I think what the plan is to do the master plan and then potentially have Steve Donovan take a look at the master plan to update any of the rates or anything. So that might be a more opportune time to take a look at as a whole, instead of trying to do a one-off and then doing another change and then another change.
And
There's my answer. Thank you.
and fiscally responsible. Great.
Yep.
Yeah. That's Matt, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly our plan, is that the master plans will come up with a new capital improvement list. That will need to be looked at to update our SDCs, and also would be the opportune time to look at our rate structure and maybe, retune some things at that point in time. Today, I was hoping to see if you had any thoughts on waiving or not waiving or forgiving a portion of the fee for the Armstrong site to apply for the fee reduction. They are not arguing having to pay the fee, the monthly storm drain fee, which is totally brand new to them, but they are wondering if, because of the circumstances, you would consider waiving their application fee to have that reduced. And just for your own knowledge, that site has their own DEQ permit to manage stormwater on their site. So they will qualify for the discount, which is 30% of the current fee that they're paying.
Okay, so and potentially, so could other people, if they could prove it was DEQ, their storm was DEQ approved, like a bioswale or whatever it may be, right?
Well, for businesses, it's a little bit more extensive, but there are opportunities to be able to have fee reductions, yes.
Okay, and this would be a great conversation for Tim as well. But for right now, what you've given us the information on Armstrong particular is that they want to have the fee waived, the $360, and
it would be just under $360 for their application for the reduction, yes.
And it would only relieve 30% of their storm. Maximum,
yeah. If they provide all of the documentation, that's the maximum fee reduction that they would be allowed.
I'm in favor of that. I don't know if we need to make it. Is it not on our agenda tonight? Is it? It's ask, right?
It is not. It is just something that came in the email to me after this meeting started, actually.
Let's also, we've got the first problem of 160 some people who should have their monthly bills of 2 months worth of bills removed. That's fine. Then we've got the discussion of how we maybe change the code in this Armstrong business. That's a second issue.
No, that's a third. That's a whole different.
I agree on that.
So the two issues that we need either a consensus or potentially a vote to reduce or remove the fee that Armstrong is requesting. So I just need a consensus from the council that you are okay removing these fees as the staff recommends for the 166 accounts. So let's start there.
Yeah, so flirt with the idea of a motion, somebody.
Yes.
Somebody flirt with the idea of a motion, like Matt just recommended.
I make a motion that we remove the 166 fees.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to give them back their money and remove the fees on the county, what Matt just described. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we have one more other issue, which is the in lieu of fee for Armstrong, the reduction, the permit fee itself.
Yeah, the permit fee is $300 some odd. You can either waive all of it or you can waive a portion of it.
I make a motion that we waive all of the $360 or whatever for Armstrong so they can apply for the reduction.
I need a second. Not hearing a second.
I have a question. So do you have to?
Question after the second, Jenny.
Okay.
Yes.
If it doesn't second, it dies.
Can I make a second? Yeah, all right. Thank you. All right, question. Go ahead, Jenny.
All right. My question is that if we're going to do this, we set precedent. And when we set precedent for waiving fees and not waiving fees in other situations, I want to make sure, because we're laying stepping stones here to a pattern. This is the first time that somebody's going in for this permit. And if we just flat out waive all this fee, then we're going to waive it for all. Why do we even bother having a fee if we're going to waive it every time?
Why? Here's why. Because Armstrong's a huge corporation who doesn't want to send a little $360 check, and they just want to be able to fill out the application online and then mail us a big fat check for the storm they owe us. That's why.
Well, they aren't doing business in our community.
Yeah.
They're closed down.
That's their justification. We know, but legally they have to pay it, but they don't have cars coming in and out.
Okay, I just wanted to call the question. That's all.
A new owner is a new application, correct?
A new owner, yeah, yes, would potentially be a new, because they would have to change their discharge permit, and they may change what they do on their site.
Yep.
Just for a little bit of background on the fee, it's established there's a $50 flat fee for the application, and then a $1 fee for each drainage residential unit, and they are charged about 309 residential unit equivalents per month. So that's how the $360 was determined. Well, it'd be $359.60 or something like that. So.
Okay, I'm just thinking of all the parking lots and all the people that pay storm, and that's just a lot of paperwork and a lot of process. I just wanted to have the question, have the conversation.
And I'm just asking the question because it was emailed to me. So, and I don't have the authority to waive that.
Okay, so any other discussion?
Okay, I was gonna say we're opening up a big can of worms.
Well, okay. Would you like to discuss that anymore, Keith?
That's all I'm saying.
For the record?
There's a lot of different types of systems out there. A lot of people that don't have storm drains and don't have access to them. So anyway.
Well, this is only to apply for a reduction. We're not saying we're reducing. This is them applying.
Yeah.
So the motion's been made and seconded to waive the fee of $360 for the application for a reduction, that fee. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay.
I didn't hear Topaz's vote. What is it?
It was an aye.
Okay.
And I want to tell you why I voted.
Motion passes 3-2.
I want to tell you why I voted no is because they are not doing business in our community. They pulled the plug in our community, and why should we give them a break? That's all.
So why I voted yes is they are not having any traffic in and out of there and are going to continue to pay storm. Very clean water coming through our storm system. Okay. So thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Okay, on to the next order of business, which is review proposed new rank of police corporal. Brian.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you for hearing me on this. In your packet, you'll see what I submitted in writing regarding my recommendation for the City Council to improve a new police rank within the St. Helens Police Department. So I'll give you a little bit of the reasoning for it and how it will benefit us in the police department, but more so the community members as a whole. Currently, it costs a lot of money for us to go and ask for a new sergeant's position from our budget. And, being fiscally responsible and understanding that, we don't have a money tree in the back of City Hall. We're not always able to fill that request. So myself, Joe Hogue, a lot of discussion over this of we could create a new supervisory rank within the St. Helens Police Department by not increasing our staffing or our current budget status, by moving some funds around and setting a qualification for this rank. And we can do that, and it has many benefits in this. So, and not to belabor and review the packet that you have, but I'll give the three best reasons for creating this rank within the St. Helens Police Department. First of all, we have 4 sergeants, 3 sergeants on patrol. And as you know, they don't work 24/7. And that being said, the majority of our police officers, our patrol officers within the police department, have less than 4 years experience in police work. Police work is one area that we have to get it right 100 out of 100 times. We are not afforded the opportunity to make mistakes. That was evident last October. We're the only profession across the world that can justifiably take a human life. So we take this very seriously. So that being said, with our young patrol force, to be responsible as a police department and the administration, we have to ensure that we have the right people in the right places and reduce our liability. And that's what we're looking at. One of the reasons of creating this. Because the sergeants aren't always there, we have young officers who need some supervision to make sure they're making the right decisions. But more so in that, supervising, the rank of corporal would be a mentor, be able to train them and get them to the level of comfortability where a normal 15 to 20-year officer has. So it's not just to supervise or to make sure the reports are written the right way. It's actually, the main goal is to mentor our young force into becoming the best product we can put out for our community. This also shortens a gap of what is lacking within the police department, and that's called succession training. I always say, if one of our sergeants wins the lottery tonight in the Powerball drawing and he quits tomorrow, well, who's the next person to fill that position? By creating this corporal rank, this will allow the police department to have succession training by allowing this rank of corporal to have some supervision skills and get ready for the ultimate position of a police sergeant. The difference, I'm sure you're wondering, what's the difference between a corporal and a police sergeant? To put it in layman's term, corporal will not do any complex internal investigations, and they won't do performance evaluations on the employee. They can make recommendations, they'll interact with the sergeant, but they won't be doing, the same level of intense investigations or performance evaluations the sergeant would do. So I think this is a win-win for the city. As you see, I underline it. This is absolutely no cost to the city, the taxpayers, in creating this. This is simply adding one more layer of safety and risk management and reducing our liability by having a person identified who's in charge, who can take control of the scenes in the community when need be. It's no secret with COVID and the way the nation's going, we are seeing daily an increase in police responses, a lot of violent calls, and this is a time that we need to have proper supervision and accountability of all of our staff. And by doing this, I believe that would, by creating this, I believe that would be the case. One area that I do want to point out in the job description, there is a change that you will see. It was a typo, and that's the certification level for the education and experience. And right now it reads under education experience, to be a corporal, you must possess an intermediate police certificate from the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training. And that should read, must possess an advanced police certificate. And the reason we're making this one step above is that if usually police officers in layman's term, the majority of them are type A personalities, are really go-getters. They want to serve the community. They want to do the right thing. A lot have military backgrounds. So we want to put the onus on the young officers who want to eventually aspire to promote to a leadership rank, that they have to take it upon themselves to obtain the training, the knowledge, even the private education to achieve a advanced certificate to meet the qualifications for this rank. That also is a win-win. That means that we're putting the best possible candidate into those positions to get them ready and succession trained into the role of sergeant and even lieutenant up to the chief. That's one area that I think that we can improve on in the department is our succession training. So in discussion with Matt Brown, Matt and I sat down, and we're going to continue to sit down to make sure that that we can fund this, because we have to give this position a little bump in pay to make it desirable, and we can't have the same pay rate as an officer because they'll be in a supervisor position. I met with Mr. John Walsh. He's on board with it, and Councilor Locke is also on board with it. So again, I believe this is a win-win for the city. What I'm looking at is to put a corporal rank on each shift. So when a sergeant is off or on vacation, we will have some direct supervision to continue to mentor and make those critical decisions in the time of need. So again, this is not going to happen overnight, but this will happen over time in filling this. But this will also save the citizens, the city, and the police department money. So instead of next year's budget asking for a sergeant, well, we probably don't need a sergeant because we're created this corporal rank, but we can take a corporal position from the existing pool of officers we have and then task them with this new responsibility and role. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has one.
No, thanks so much. I know that just in following the force, I know that not having an intermediate step has been a real push, and it has been for a long time. And this is an awesome idea, and I think that it's just right on par with where we need to be at as we grow as a city. I think it's perfect.
Thank you, Counselor.
Ryan, just being from my experience of being in the military and the Army and having leadership and having mentors aboard and all my coaching experiences as well, this is an ideal situation. It is so important. It's imperative that you have good leadership up and down the line. So good idea as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Counselor.
My question is, this position does not exist in the St. Helens order of control, correct?
I'm sorry, Counselor, you broke. This position would be a non-rep position, so they would not fall into the police union.
No, that is my question. My question is, if I say how many types of positions do we have in the police force, does this position exist? We have privates, we have sergeants, we have chiefs. We don't have corporals on the standard line of succession.
I'm sorry, I had a bad connection, Counselor. So yes, we don't currently have the rank of corporal, if that's what you're asking.
That's correct.
Yes, we do not currently have it. I'm asking the council if you would approve this rank for the benefits of the agency and the community.
Well, my surprise is we don't have it already. That was what my question was asked.
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have we do need it. That's not the problem. It's we just don't have the position officially set up.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I could make a point on why that's probably more appropriate now than it is in the past. I mean, if you reflect back, 10 years ago, the average age of the officer on the department was 15 to 20 years, lots of experience and a lot of tenure. And not everybody is close to the top in experience and education. Now we have a force that's kind of, it's turned over, a lot of retirements, younger people coming on, and like the chief said, the average tenure of less than 4 years, it's really an opportunity for growth and succession.
Okay, well, I think I'm hearing a census of yes, go ahead and move forward with making a corporal position for each shift, correct?
Well, we would start off and we'll gradually get into it as we get the qualified people. But yes, Mr. Mayor, that's what our eventual goal is, but we're not going to automatically promote 3 corporals. I mean, we have to get everybody prepared for that, sir.
Yes, but it does give you some flexibility for as far as laterals though, too.
Absolutely.
So, and we understand the importance of that in today's age and getting the qualified people. So,
And I believe tonight it's on the actual council meeting for reading and approval by.
well, there you go. See, I wasn't looking forward. So,
Yeah, it's on the list for tonight.
Yep. Okay. Well,
Okay.
appreciate the update. Good work.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Update on summer event planning.
Right, this is something I'd hope to have Tina be unmuted for on the conversation.
She is unmuted.
Okay, good. Very good. So yeah, we wanted to check in on, the pandemic's really wreaked havoc on the tourism and a lot of the things we've done in our normal ways of doing business, and events is one of those things. The governor's orders are fairly restrictive, and as far as events, and especially for certain sizes, and as of right now, it looks like through September we're not having any events, just through the governor's order. So on 13 nights, the 4th of July, as we move into the fall, the Luminites Festival, some of the one-offs that E2C produced as far as the street festivals and things like that, those things are probably, going to look a lot different. And we did not renew the fireworks contract. That doesn't mean we're not doing something for 4th of July, but we wanted to get your input on that. 13 nights, just the gathering of it is really, I think Tina is going to talk about potentially shifting some of those 13 nights into the fall, if we do it at all. And, I'm really getting into October and how even Halloween's going to look a little bit different potentially. And Tina, if you want to take over there.
Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I am not canceling anything in July as far as 13 nights goes, but talking to the musicians about moving further into the fall time frame. Everybody seems pretty amiable except for people that were like part of the concert series that was touring, and the whole concert series is now not happening. Otherwise, people are receptive to it, understanding, and realize what's going on. The other thing that is super critical to 13 nights is a liquor license, and right now no one is getting a liquor license. So the only people that can currently get a liquor license for anything are still like restaurants or a bar that was planning on opening or that type of thing. I talked to Carla yesterday, and she said she didn't know when that was changing, but right now we couldn't, financially make it feasible to do a music event anyway, because we completely rely on liquor sales to, pay the bills. So the sponsors of 13 nights are all just pretty much in the same scenario. They're saying, if it moves forward, we're all good. People want stuff to happen, but they don't want it to happen without proper guidelines. This brings me to a question that perhaps we can talk about in the next meeting or put it on a calendar, which is some research that I've been doing on open container in other cities like Cannon Beach, like some places in Oregon, where you could have a designated area where you could go into a restaurant or a bar, and you could, with a non-glass container, walk out with a beer, wine, or champagne. And I bring this up because it's all great and fine and fancy that you want to put tables in the middle of the road, but the OLCC will not allow those restaurants to serve alcohol in the middle of the street because they don't have the liquor license for it. and they will not grant a liquor license, in my opinion, based on working with them for a really long time, to allow them to serve people. So the only way around that would be if council were to say, okay, we're going to allow to do a open container law that would be encompassing this specific area of town. Then you potentially could have people able to put, you know, some extra tables out and serve them. But right now, the restaurants couldn't do that if they wanted to, because they do not have the license for it. You have to have a special license, even to serve more than like X number of tables out of your front door. You can't just throw tables out and say, those are my tables. It's like this whole process that you have to go through with the, not only the liquor commission, but also the food people, the health department.
So that I hear exactly what you're saying, but I'm going to tell you right now, as a small business, if I have a couple parking spaces, and this is just me speaking for me, and you can't, and I can't speak for the OLCC, because you can assume because of your relationships in the past, but you cannot make that assumption. And
well, I'm not making an assumption.
Let me speak.
You know,
if it's me and I'm a business owner, and I want to make sure my business is surviving, and I know these people are going to sit there and they're going to finish their drink, and I've served them no more than 2, and they're going to walk away and be under the blood alcohol limit and leave my premises, I am going to do that because I need to make that sale in order for my business to survive. You're a businesswoman, I'm a businessman. You understand this is how we have to operate. Sometimes the risk is worth the reward.
Well, I don't think any restaurant would risk.
And I'm not, no, don't put words into my mouth. I'm not
saying
I'm saying you're speaking on OLCC behalf of what these people can and cannot do, and you're asking us to make an ordinance for a one section of town, and that's not, I'm not in favor of that.
I think you're not understanding what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that I don't think a restaurant would risk their liquor license by breaking the law with the OLCC. There's that. But aside from that, if we could put something in a meeting in the future that there are ways around that that would protect the restaurants so that they could do that.
All I know is there's a hairdresser in Salem that disagrees with your assumption as far as it's not OLCC, but it's still a legal battle. So what I can say, you know, and part of this is rolling into our next discussion is about reopening the city. And that would be probably part of that discussion for us to have, because it is our businesses. It's not an event. That's really your wheelhouse, is the event coordinator. And we're talking about summer events right now. And I get where you're going with it, but that's really probably something we should be discussing as reopening and as this moves forward. And actually that's a state issue, and it's between the business owner and the state regulations and how they interpret it with their attorney, not our attorney. Is that correct, Tim? You're muted.
That's certainly what counts, is what the state is, what their council says.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
And that's why I don't want to try. I was kind of getting out there, and I just felt like it needed to get drawn back in. I appreciate that we're going to continue events going that were in July, and kind of just keep pushing that out. I agree with that. I don't know about the rest of the council. Discussion on this event. It's our agenda, summer event planning.
Yeah, I think we have to look at the next phase, because the Oregon opening is every 3 weeks. And it's like you can't do anything till you get to phase 3. And so that's going to be sometime the end of July. And so we can't really say yes or no until those phases are passed. Until you're allowed to have 500 people in a place, you can't have a conversation.
Right.
You know, and so they haven't even printed phase 2 and phase 3. It's all tentative.
Yeah, this is something that we've got to really maintain flexibility in, and rely on our staff, rely on the people who are responsible for this to remain flexible and tuned in to what's going on with the state and report back to the council.
Right, because the state also controls, the health department and the liquor control commission and everybody else, and everybody is kind of tied into this together right now. But with that thought process of being able to have some street closures in the future, I'm kind of putting together a plan that I think we can have events that would be safe and reasonable, that would include some street closures and some access to the restaurants and businesses to an audience that wants to be here, basically. And it's a little bit different, but it's something that I think is workable if we control how many people are coming in and we use common sense. But it does all depend on Governor Brown. The other thing that I want to let people know is that Sand Island is open. And we have been promoting Sand Island and letting people know that it's open. And I was talking to them just today, and he said he's getting a lot of calls from people that want to camp on the island. And fortunately, that is one place where we don't really have to worry about 6 feet apart or, keeping some physical distancing in place. So they're excited to be open and welcoming people that are local. Probably not as many travelers, but it's a great staycation to be able to go over to the island and, have a great weekend.
Is it because it's private? Because I know when we were speaking on the governor's orders, and this is where it's very confusing and it keeps moving forward, it just people get lost, is that her orders are, maybe it's state parks, day use only, no camping, which camping is great social distancing. I'm not disagreeing. Is it because he's private that he meets his qualification?
Well, I see, this is where I go back to your stance is I don't run his business. I'm just letting you know what's happening and that it's going on.
So he has an agreement, and I talked to Brad. I see him, I'm a fisherman. I see him quite often. He goes, I'm just waiting on the go ahead from you guys that I can start camping. I said, well, Brad, it's not up to us. We're pretty much just following what the governor has set into motion.
Right. So
I'm telling you what last I heard is governor's orders were day use, but no overnight camping. So that
was applicable to state parks.
Okay.
There's specific guidelines in the governor's order that talk about encouragement of private parks for them,
and
especially where you're using locally, right?
And that's what I was asking.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, I don't tell people this is the law. That's not what I do. So if they wanted to make a decision, they can go ahead and do that. And it's just my job as part of it is to let people know what's happening so that they can make a plan that is tourism related.
Okay, I've got a question on that while we're on that topic, if I could intro. Tim, what's our liability if we own the island, it's under lease, and so what's our liability in that situation if people go camping and there's an outbreak of virus? Do they come back on the city? How are we protected there?
At this point, we don't have any clear protection. There's discussion going on in the context of the whole reopening process about what could be done to provide limitations on liability for businesses and government for the use of their facilities. But those things are just discussions at this point. So our liability is limited by the creativity of plaintiffs. We could face claims like that. It's important for us to do things essentially in concert with others so that what we're doing is viewed later as reasonable.
Okay, thank you. I hope staff takes that into consideration.
The other thing that I wanted to let everybody know is that Lisa has sent out a directive to Public Works and the police officers and myself's team for the graduation, and I believe everything is going as planned. I've no doubt that the police officers will be doing traffic control and doing a great job as always, and that Public Works will also get the sign that Paulson's gave us, and we've got tested already all of the links that are needed to make sure that it's live so people can stay at home and watch it, and we've gotten excellent feedback on that. Speaking of feedback, I wanted to let you know that the website for Spirit of Halloween Town is looking awesome, and we will be having our new site available. The Discover Columbia County site, we just did a revamp of that. When we started the revamp, we were almost at 800,000 people that had visited the site. And it was really interesting to see that in the last month with the new site that is up, well, just refresh site, I will say, that 85% of the people that are going to that site are new and have never gone to the site before. 15% of them were returning. 76% of them were accessing the site on their mobile device, 2% on tablet, and 22% on their desktop. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little stat that we had. The other thing that I think is worth talking about a little bit is the permits for the Masonic. We've been doing a lot of investigation, and it's looking like we are going to be able to change the usage for the Masonic, which will be saving us a lot of money. So
good.
I'm excited about that, and we're working also on one thing that I want to just let you know, that we're also working on having what they call is a dark market, and 2Cs and the other people that have heard about this are really excited about it, and that would be a 3 times per year where we invite other people from other cities to come to St. Helens for a weekend. And they would have vendors that specialize in, Halloween related and fright film related things to purchase. And then the idea is that we would have, some type of party at the end of the day. Then they stay overnight at the hotel. And then the next day, the dark market would be open again from like 10 until 3. And nobody really does this. It happens like once a year, close to Halloween in Portland. This would happen in off season, and we have a ton of people that are interested in that. 2Cs was really excited that we would be doing something like this, hopefully, I would say, next year. And it's not where there's billions of people coming, but the people that come are really enthusiasts and are really excited we would even come up with that.
Sure, I'm just curious, did you come up with the name? Is it dark, or has it been around, Dark Market?
That is a name that has been around for a long time. So it's like we would be a dark market.
So Halloween Town Dark Market.
Kind of, yeah.
I had a question for you. Through all this COVID, sidewalk pickup and curb pickup have been allowed through all phases, and I wonder if there is any adaptability to events being car-centric.
Yeah, I'm working on all that.
Car rallies, car concerts, drive-in.
Yeah, I'm working on I'm working on the driving aspect for all future events right now.
Yeah, I just people keep sending me pictures of drive-in movies.
Yeah, the drive-in movie thing is super expensive. There's a reason people don't do it all over the place. The movies are really expensive to rent, and you're completely relying on charging people more than they probably want to pay for crappy, not crappy movies, but movies that have been around for like 10 and 20 years. As you can, Matt can chime in on this because they were renting for the free outdoor concerts with the rec department. It's cost prohibitive is why people aren't doing it all over the place. They're doing it where there's already established theaters.
Yeah, I don't think drive-in movies is an easy find, but I wonder if there's something like a car-bound version of a pub crawl.
I'll let you organize that and I will attend.
But it's like, you know, where you get your desserts in one spot and you get your drinks in another spot.
Yeah.
Everybody stays in their car.
Restaurants, I don't think the restaurants would want to do that because it's so risky for them when they could have a customer that eats an entire meal rather than running in and out to get a dessert item or, you know, an appetizer.
I think you're going to keep our police and court system very busy if we start that up.
I'm all about funding streams, you know.
Yeah, we are too.
All right, I just, you know, I just got a text from somebody that asked for do more car stuff, so I just thought I'd ask that question.
We like car stuff.
Yes, cruising the gut.
Not drinking though.
No, not drinking and driving, absolutely not.
It's cruising the gut is one thing that still could be done social distance. So, but they are having difficulties with COVID and what would be their liability as a club. So they're actually looking at not doing it because everybody's scared. And it's just something we need to talk about, I guess, in the reopening the city is everybody's scared, and I get it. You know, I get it. It's the simple things in life that we value our folks, our loved ones, and it's a balancing act and trying to. I couldn't imagine. I can't personally imagine 4 more months of this, or 3.5 more months of this. You know what I mean? I mean,
I can't imagine 4 weeks of it.
So, and I just want to make a point that Brady Preheim brought up last meeting is that Tina's furloughed herself voluntarily for 2 months and is continuing to do this work. So I'm not trying to miss that opportunity, Tina, you know, when he mentioned that, because I was aware of it because John had mentioned it to me. I just appreciate that you're still being a team member, and furlough means you don't have to be doing this. You kind of just need to take a break for 2 months, and you're still working even under furlough. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So I just wanted to touch on that because it was brought up, and you know, I mean, maybe we're supposed to take that and run it up the pole. I don't know. You know, I mean, we do a lot of things here at the city that, and staff all around that we don't shoot for a lot of credit for and run up the pole. Maybe we should do a lot more. I don't know. I mean, we're
I'm fine with what goes on. So.
Okay. All right. But I just want to recognize you and let you know thank you because it was brought up, Tina, and I think I speak for all of us. So.
Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, looking forward to actually figuring out how to keep this city happy and events going. So we'll be discussing this next meeting as well.
I had a follow-up question. How often is Tina in St. Helens?
At least twice a week, right, Tina?
She muted herself.
Okay, well, I'm guessing at least
she's here pretty much every day.
Yeah, she's here almost every day.
Okay.
Again, I mean, with COVID, I try not to stop in that much, and unless I have to. So, I've been down there a little bit lately, though. Okay, so next discussion regarding reopening the city. So, going to be a balancing act. We know that. We're going to protect ourselves first and foremost, but we also have to serve our community. And how do we go about doing that?
Provide masks for everybody that comes in.
Well, and we talked about that. Other people, other discussion?
I'm ready.
There you go. I got my Oregon Ducks. Thank you, Keith.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, it was huge for me, just as a personal thing, is my employer, even though it wasn't required for my job on that day, provided me with a mask and sanitizer and the basic necessities because they cared about my well-being. And I think I hope that we're doing that for all of our employees to make sure that they all have access to masks, that they know that they matter, whether we can't force them to put them on, but sometimes it's hard to find a mask, to just find one to buy. And I just want to know our citizens and our employees that we do care about their well-being. People can choose to be home, or some people are stir crazy and they want to go for a walk in the park, or they want to go shopping, and I want them to be safe in doing that. I want them to support local business, but I want them to do it safely.
Agree with you 100%.
I'm just anxious for those bathrooms to be open.
Yeah, good discussion. I think you nailed it with mask and sanitizer in appropriate places in the city, obviously in our council chambers and obviously in City Hall. I think sanitizer available to anyone who walks in the door, and masking up is not that big a deal. I mean, it's just, if you wear them around your neck or whatever when you're outside, just put them up around your face. That's hardly anything really. And it's just a message that to a lot of people that you're aware that the virus is in the air, or could be in the air, and you're taking precautions. And I think that's a good way to promote safety.
What's frustrating to me is what I will speak on is that the political side of this thing is ridiculous. Everybody's scared to say, let's open now. Let's open now, because of you're a radical. You don't care about human life. You just don't care about anybody but yourself. You're a conspiracy theorist. You think this is real. This is not real. Oh, it's become very political, and this is a pandemic. This is a pandemic we have here. It's the simple things like you guys just said that are going to make the difference. Wearing a mask, physical distance, wash your hands, don't touch your face. It's the simple things. Those stop it tremendously. Now there's going to be those rare cases that pop up. We're going to hear about it because the media grabs a hold of every single case. Remember what numbers we have in our area. Remember what we were asked to do was to flatten the curve. We knew we couldn't stop it. We were asked to flatten the curve. That has been achieved. And I'm just throwing this out there, whether you're on one side or the other, did we or did we not? It's a question of logic, flatten the curve as we were asked.
We did the right thing.
Yes.
People did, Oregonians, Americans, by and large, did the right thing. But as people are not traveling, they're not attending events, they can't go to movie theaters, I think that people are enjoying our parks. I think that to make the provisions to allow them to use a public restroom, and encourage social distancing and hand washing and covering your face. If you can't go camping on Memorial Day, going for a walk and a picnic in the park is probably pretty low-hanging fruit for a family with kids that are stir crazy.
Yes. Yes.
That's just my thing. It's like, no, we can't camp, but we should be able to do day activities. We've put a lot of money and a lot of hard work to have really gorgeous parks. And we want our community to be healthy physically and mentally and emotionally. And I think we have the tools to do that. We just need to encourage our community.
I think I could be wrong, but under CIS, if we're not charging something, so I recommend, I think we're covered by our CIS as far as our parks. We're not saying open the playgrounds, but I think we're covered on like even the bathrooms that belong to the parks. Is that correct, Tim? Yes, he's shaking his head, yes. So my question would be this: one particular shower has quarter machines. Do we disassemble the quarter machine for now with this COVID, or does that, because that would hold us liable because there is actually a charge on that?
I'm sorry, how does the charge relate to liability?
Well, I know under CIS, if we don't charge for our public parks or the CIS coverage for parks, particularly it was in, I think, Bend with that Whitewater. Wasn't there some big dispute of liability?
Yeah. I believe you're talking about recreational immunity generally.
Yes.
And whether, if you charge for it, then you have some liability or expectation to deliver a level of service that's safe.
And it might be a CIS question. I don't know. But I guess it'd be nice to be able to open up our bathrooms for our parks. Sue, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, if I can just make a comment on the restrooms. I understand the desire to have those open as soon as possible, but in the phase 1 guidelines, if we are to open them, they have to be thoroughly cleaned a minimum of twice per day, and that includes on the weekends. We don't currently have the staffing to do that.
I thought you could post it that they were not sanitized. I thought
that could be an option. What I read was the cleaning them. We can look into that.
Yeah. So our current status was once a day, though. Is that correct?
That is what we formally did once a day during the weeks, but not at all during the weekends.
Okay. All right. I was just curious of that. So Community Action or CCMH could have done it the other time, and we'd have been standard.
Does that apply to the portables as well?
The portables are serviced by Hudson once per week and restocked. Our staff checks them for supplies during the remainder of the week, but not on the weekends.
Yeah, the big bathrooms just feel safer to me than the tiny little porta potty when you're talking about droplets trapped in air.
At some point, we have to open up. We can say this forever. We can continue this on into phase 3 into September. Nope, I don't want to open those bathrooms. I am not okay.
I'm open either way. I'm just making sure that everyone understands what that's going to mean.
Well, yes, and we have options that we need to reach out to partners that we're willing to participate and staff under regulations of the showers anyhow. I don't know, maybe they got sour taste in their mouth and they won't even have nothing to do with us.
So is there a reason why we couldn't change staff's hours as far as somebody working Monday through Friday and then somebody working Wednesday through Sunday or something? I mean, we have we have 3 park staff.
We have 3 park staff.
Yeah.
So that would be an option. We would have to look at what their contract says as far as changing their normal work schedule.
Yeah, I think
there's notification.
Certain notice.
Yeah, there's notification that we would have to do that. That we could potentially look into something like that on a temporary basis.
I mean, I don't know how operations run in parks and everything, but I would think we would have staff available that could float a couple days and work Saturday and Sunday versus working 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
John, you're the one that told me that we could post it otherwise.
There is a provision for that, but there's also the other factors at play, I think, that need to be considered. And as far as, your playgrounds are not supposed to be open. And
no, playgrounds cannot be opened.
And so they're all taped off and closed. And when you provide these, amenities next to the playground, you kind of attract people or invite people to, violate that to some degree. It already gets hard enough time keeping it closed.
Yeah, we also cannot open the covered shelters at this time.
Covered picnic shelters, there's a list of things that are, there's a number of communities that are waiting at least until June to kind of, I think the governor likened it to a dimmer switch rather than a light switch, where we're kind of slowly bringing these things back on rather than just flipping the switch. And that's probably a pretty good analogy.
So as long as they maintain the flexibility of going county by county or region by region, I'm fine with that. But to wait for Multnomah County to come along and we're already there 2 months ahead is ridiculous. So hopefully the state can have some flexibility to say, hey, this county is ready, this county or this area is ready. And I don't see that happening to the point where it should be, but hopefully it can be.
So if I can ask a question too on parks related to fields. I know Sue has had questions. I know Shauna has had questions, and I have got questions already from softball groups, little league groups, asking for field reservations, and they're able to play. Now, my understanding is that the parks are generally open. However, you have to keep social distancing of whatever the requirement is of groups of 10 or less and 6 feet of space, and all those questions come into play. But with our current discussion, does the city council want to continue or
here's what's
want to
hard
have access to fields for people?
Yeah, this is very hard for me because I'm a very mobile person. I go to Walmart, and I've been going to Walmart. I don't wear a mask. Okay, whatever. If you want to say, whatever. I literally pass people 2 to 3 feet away, constantly, daily. I am trying to distance myself once I am able to, but if we all were, it's just not working. The simple things are is when I get home, I wash my hands because was at the store, which a bathroom at the park has soap and water, which all of a sudden that virus that was there is gone magically because I use soap and water or a disinfectant. And it's the simpler things that are going to protect us and stop this. And we're just blowing this way out of proportion. So we have 12 players per person. You have a dugout. Most of the time they're spaced unless they're at bat. They are spaced unless at bat. Okay? I say yes. Let them play.
Well, I mean, I heard that statewide governments are inviting them to play without fans or with social distance fans, that they want the sports to go on.
So
as of right now, the only requests that we've received are for practices.
My question so back to the restaurant, which is actually can be greater than 25 people as long as it's 50%, because I got a little clarification from, okay, so what's a big, huge baseball field and stands? What is other than the 6 foot distancing? But if your family, you could be seated at a restaurant, literally shoulder to shoulder. So wait a minute.
I think they were talking about like arenas.
No,
you
yes.
can't pack the Moda Center.
You raised that question. You raised that and brought it on this subject. So I'm going to counterbalance. I'm playing the devil's advocate here. And I'm saying, okay, so now I can be shoulder to shoulder with my family and my friends at this restaurant, because we could just say we're family, but I can go out to eat with my friends shoulder to shoulder, and we're going to be 6 feet away from those people over there, those 4 people, and there's 50 of us in this, but we meet the guidelines because we're 6 foot apart and we're less than 50% capacity of this building. Now we have a huge softball field, and we know the governor has given her order. It's not up to us and to enforce. She's enforced it on all Oregonians.
Right.
Okay. So it's really not up to us to police it. If she wants to send the state police here, in my eyes, let them do it. If she wants to order it. If she wants to order, and I'm going to throw this out there because I don't know how much truth there is to it, So she wants to order OSHA to come to a shop and then also send DHS to that same owner's shop to inspect her children. Yes. Department of Human Services, Child Welfare. If she wants to do that, that's her prerogative. Okay? That's totally, entirely up to her. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm playing the devil's advocate. I know everybody's like stunned probably at my comments, but this is where we're going to go with this. And it's going to get ugly before it gets better.
Well, I'm certainly not, Mayor, I'm certainly not stunned. I know this about you. And what I'm concerned about is our liability, the city's liability, and the whole aspect of coming back and getting sued because we aren't following certain policies. This is, now hold it, listen, this is where Tim can weigh in, and I'm asking him to weigh in on this about in regards to our liability if we don't follow the state's guidelines. That's my only concern. And I've already weighed in about the state can do a lot better. You heard me.
Sure. But they're public lands. We may mow them and actually clean out some restrooms and maybe even got some funding to build the restroom, but they're public lands.
I want to know about our liability.
They don't have to come. They don't have to play softball. They don't have to wear a mask. If they choose to wear a mask, great.
I understand the rights. I understand all of that, but I need to understand.
We're talking about freedoms and amendments here.
Now I'm talking about liability. You're talking about freedoms and amendments. So I'm talking about liability. I'm just asking the question about liability for.
And so I'm just playing the devil's advocate on the other side.
I know you are.
The other side, because you're saying that, and I'm asking Tim to represent me. So you're asking me to represent you on your side, but I'm asking Tim as a different attorney.
No, he's not representing me.
No,
He's actually asking.
It's hypothetically, Doug.
Okay, I understand hypothetically. I understand that from the get-go. I am asking Tim to weigh in on, if that's okay with you, to ask him to weigh in on what our liability is if we go against state standards. That's an easy question. It doesn't have anything to do with rights or anything else that we need to interpret and we need to argue, because we'll be arguing until the lights go out. Tim, can you help me?
Okay. Well, I don't want to take a side in any particular policy debate, but I would say from a liability standpoint, to the extent that we have clear instruction from the state or from a county that has a plan for how we're going to open up, if we follow those instructions, we have the best chance of defending ourselves from claims later. To me, the hard cases are where the state and the county have left gray areas, where they haven't really defined what the rules are. And in those cases, and some of them involve parks, it seems to me we should be pressing the county and the state to be as clear as possible on their advice, so that we're not left in these gray areas where somebody can exploit that later and say, well, you know, the rule wasn't clear and you should have been more conservative. And the fact that you weren't caused injury. That's my concern, is to try to get rules that are as clear as possible so that we can follow them as closely as possible. That's the advice you're going to hear from me in terms of being conservative about avoiding liability.
Sure.
Thank you. That helps me.
On other issues in open the city, when we talked about PPE, hand washing, as far as like our water department wanting to pay your water bill, wanting to come in and pay a court fine. We do have, don't we have a plexiglass in the one side with a little tiny already?
Yeah, we do, and actually we ordered earlier this week some plexiglass for the court department as well as utility billing. The offer has also been thrown out to the library, but I believe they're working with Councilor Topaz on a separate thing for their desk. So we are getting protective sneeze guards for those of them that have wanted. It has been put out to all employees that have a direct contact with the public. So I know there's some in our downstairs office with utility billing and planning that want one. So we are getting those. They should be here around the 1st of June or so. So if we do open up to the city, I would just recommend that we wait till we get those put up, and it shouldn't take very much. They're already built. We just have to put them together and put them on the tabletops.
Okay, but we have the one side that's just a little tiny slip through window, right, Matt?
It is on the court side. There's no office in there currently right now because we moved everybody out of there.
Okay, but that could open up real soon. Is that correct? I mean, as soon as we get I know the carpet and all that's going on, but
yeah.
I mean, you can pay court fines and water bills there.
Yeah, and you can also, but you can still do court fines, and the payment drop box has been put back up, so we're putting that back in so people can come drop off their payment if they want to do that. So that is back up and operating, just so you're aware. But people will still be able to come in and to the utility billing office and make payments for court or utility billing. At least as long as we get those sneeze guards up to make sure our employees feel protected. And they've already been given the masks and hand sanitizer from the county resources that we've received. So we're trying to make as best sure as we can that we have every opportunity for an employee to say if they don't feel comfortable or if there's something else that they need, that we make sure to have met all those requirements for our employee safety.
Good, because I know a lot of people have inquired about it.
Well, I think this actually didn't go exactly like I was intending as far as the opening of the city meant something a little bit different to me. But from my lens, it was a general strategy working with various departments and services that the city provides. And each department's a little bit different. Their engagement with the public's a little bit different among themselves is different. The police really have been in a large way unimpacted, though it's business as usual. Public Works, a lot of their services and they're doing what they've done every day, just powering right through it. But other City Hall is definitely a little bit different, where we're scheduling meetings and different things. The utility billing has changed. The library certainly has, but that's also been a really good opportunity for them to get some capital improvement projects done, and some carpet and painting and things of that nature. And they're really not even in a place right now where they could just flip the switch and open up. Their rollback is, and Margaret will probably talk about it in her report, is they're going to be bringing back things slowly and kind of building that up and getting all the equipment in place and things of that nature. But generally, the reentry strategy that we're hearing is it's around health and wellness for the employees, for the public. It's about this interaction between the employees and the visiting public as far as health screenings and things of that nature, how the building's set up, how they deal with food in the workplace, the janitorial piece of it, where they're in day-to-day cleanings and things like we've upped the cleaning around. We've installed some UV light in the HVAC system here that helps with sterilization of the air, how we handle packages and mails and as a category, and then finally just the workspace, how you're physically arranged and oriented and to deal with things. So each of those strategy criteria has been considered with each workplace. So we're trying to think about those, move forward appropriately and cautiously, and keep everybody safe. And we want things back to normal just as much as anyone does. So the other technical pieces that I just want to make a mention of is that our declaration of emergency was tied to until the council lifts it, and I don't think that tonight would be the appropriate time to do that. I think that your next meeting would probably be more appropriate, and
that's a good point. Yeah,
that's your prerogative. So
yep, nope,
and that's not unlike a lot of our peer communities that are waiting a little bit to see what happens here.
Well, and we needed to do that in order to apply for funding of some sorts.
Correct.
The assistance that we did help out with as far as serving our community through senior center and all that. Okay, so yeah, let's put that definitely on next agenda for sure. Lisa or Kathy? That could just be an action item later in the evening.
Next agenda being the
Keith is
June
waving.
3rd. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Keith is waving.
Keith.
I have one more recommendation that we need to maybe think about.
Yep.
And I guess it could be dependent, but to purchase some of the new radar guns they have for taking temperatures. You know, City Hall, we could actually shoot everybody for their temperature before they come in, and we could even think about doing all of our employees first thing in the morning or evening, just as a safeguard.
Councillor Locke, I will tell you that that was a request from our judge, Amy Lindgren, and we have purchased one, at least for the court department, as we slowly start to work to opening the court department to do their normal processes. So we have purchased one. It's on its way, at least for the court department.
What's the cost on those, Matt?
Usually 50 to 100 bucks, depending on which one you get.
So
Okay.
Keith, are you recommending one for each department?
That's what I would recommend, yes.
I'm not going to disagree because it's a safety issue, but I will say, ask a question to the people who know, because I haven't had an update lately. How many current cases have tested positive for Columbia County?
16.
16 total since this thing has started, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And how many citizens are in Columbia County? Anybody know generally?
45,000.
Who said 55?
45,000.
45?
Yeah.
I thought it was 50.
It's around 50.
50,000, Keith. You're back in the old days.
Okay.
Growing.
They slipped in. I didn't see them.
The library came to mind to me about temperatures because people go in and they're there for a long time. People that come in and drop off their water bill are there and gone.
I just throwing that number out there and let it resonate that, you know, I mean, we got 16 cases for 50,000 people.
Well, I was thinking about the use differently, not scanning every single person. But if an employee has reasonable cause that they think somebody's working and they're sick, or they're in their place of employment and they're sick.
And I said I wasn't disagreeing with that.
It would give them an out.
I just wanted to come back to this whole discussion as part of reopening. And
Right.
I felt was vitally important on the scope of the whole thing, even the bathrooms outside where homeless people would like to take a shower that are carrying germs around. Could be washed down the drain, but they're going to end up in the store touching some food merchandise. And they could have washed that away 2 days ago in our showers. But now they're in IGA and they're grabbing that bag of chips, and I come right behind them not knowing they just touched that bag of chips and put it back. Okay? I'm just throwing that out there. And it doesn't even have to be them. It doesn't even have to be them. It could be anybody. But it's just an example of why we should open them up.
Any place where people can wash.
Mayor Schultz, can I make just a suggestion? Just hearing the conversation. I know we've discussed about doing a declaration or de-declaring the emergency on June 3rd meeting at our next city council meeting. May I recommend that staff go back to their departments and put together an open plan that can be reviewed by John. And then those plans are forwarded to you on the June 3rd meeting to review and give any thoughts and suggestions to how each department is going to put together their own plan.
I don't agree with that. If we're going to do that, I want to be able to adopt those plans June 3rd, because I'm ready to get back into social distancing, and the council can zoom in, but I'm ready to go down to chamber and be 6 foot apart.
Right. That's what I was hoping. June 3rd.
If you want to zoom in, fine. But I'm ready to be 6 foot apart.
I'm just getting good at these Zoom meetings.
Yeah, you have music going prior too. Did anybody?
Music. Elevator music.
The one thing, if you're not comfortable showing up, please do zoom in. It's your choice. And nobody's here to twist your arm. But I think it's time to get
The one thing I can say is I'm glad you guys don't run operating rooms, so trying to keep germs away.
Well, you know what? Germs are microorganisms that are just among us. They are part of the earth. Viruses are part of the earth. They just are.
That's very true, Mr. Mayor, but you also have 4 persons on your council that are
And that's why I said, if you don't feel comfortable, zoom in by all means.
So there's.
You know what? I'm just throwing it out there. You know, I mean, they just are part of the earth. I think we're stronger than this earth, and she could wipe us out with one little microorganism if she wanted. We should really say thank you and be grateful for each day we have here.
Absolutely.
So did we decide, are we waiting? We're not opening the bathrooms? Is that what we decided?
I want to open the bathrooms.
I'm right there with you. Do you think we could get a compromise on Monday through Friday? You know, it's like, can we get there at least partially?
You know what? Obviously, it's too difficult of a question for the current to answer right now. But I think 2.5 weeks is too long to wait.
I really would like to open for Memorial Day.
I would like to have a reasonable explanation. I vote, if you're making a motion, I vote we do. And if they're not open, I want a very reasonable, logical explanation that I can give to our citizens, each and every one of them, as to why.
That's why I asked about the liability question, Mayor, and you heard Tim's response. That's the best response I know.
Are bathrooms closed and every public bathroom closed in the Oregon?
No.
And how many cases do we have in Columbia County again? 16?
16.
And how many people capita? 50,000?
Well, more importantly, 16 cases, 15 have recovered, no deaths.
Okay.
So we're talking about it. We're talking about our city population as we go through this. As it's our municipality, it's our city. Obviously, we live with the rest of the county, but the rest of the county is spread out. We aren't Claskenai. We aren't Rainier. We're St. Helens, and that's something that we've got to keep in mind when we start juggling figures around about how many people are in Columbia County. And it's like how many people are in the city and how many homeless people are passing by as well. So when you start juggling those figures around, they're erroneous. And so, my whole issue is safety. And my whole issue is liability. And the liability that go ahead.
No.
Go ahead. I'd like to, sometime, one of these times, I'm going to be able to
Go ahead. I'm
thought.
sorry. You know what? Jesus Christ. Go ahead.
I'm finished.
Are you? Okay, because you said they're erroneous. Well, the county submitted numbers in order to reopen to Governor Brown. What I'm told, what you're saying is not even close to the truth. The numbers are what we have to have. We have to have tests done on our citizens. Where are the tests?
Right.
Where are the tests at? Because they want numbers. Where are they? Who's reached out to you, Council President? Who's reached out to this mayor? Who's reached out to my administrator? Other than we know that the county's the lead on this and the health district is the lead.
Right.
Where do we go? But we know as citizens, we have 16 cases for 50,000 people. And
so what's your point?
So we are 13,000 people here that we serve.
So what's your point?
So we need bathrooms reopened so our citizens, if they want to go in and wash their hands because they got dirty at the park, can go in and wash their hands. And if they need to go pee and they want to, that's my point.
I understand your point, and you're using the population, the figures of the county, and how many people have tested positive for the virus. I understand that.
So,
it's my turn, kids. One thing you've got to realize, we do not keep everybody out of the county who doesn't belong here. And we need one person from outside the area who carries it, who's not in any numbers business, who infects the surface, and that's where the problem starts. It is not the number of people in St. Helens or Columbia County with or without the virus that's our problem. It's a carrier coming in. And so if you start playing numbers games, your number is 1.
I agree.
Okay, so all I can say is let's just keep everything shut down, because if this is a council census, I know where I stand on this.
So can I make
exactly where I stand on this, John?
Yeah,
hold
John,
on.
let's have an
if we're
gray.
Okay.
And this is where this is all going, because everybody's gonna say, I told him not to, or you're not opening soon enough. And this is where it gets political, and it's a pandemic, it's a virus. Whose fault is it? It's not Doug's fault, it's not my fault, but we got into an argument over it. And
Not too much of an argument. All I'm concerned
no,
about is the
no.
safety and the liability. And so that's my concern.
So that's where I guess I'm going, is this whole thing has turned so political and argumentative on who's right and who's wrong, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. I beg to differ. If you know, then you are Christ himself, our Savior. Come give me all the information. I want to talk to you right now.
So Rick, nobody knows. That's the whole problem. Are you willing to take a chance is the problem. And everybody's different on that.
The minute I walk out my door and I start my truck and I head down the road, I am taking a chance.
That's your chance, but it's not everybody else's chance.
Keith,
Everybody has
a loaded weapon.
chance.
Keith, last time I checked, a vehicle is like no different than a loaded weapon, and errors are made.
That's exactly right.
Yes, but we don't hold that accountable. Alcohol still kills people. Drugs still kill people. Drug addiction should be a pandemic. We should have so much attention around it as we do this.
We should.
A lot of problems. John, go ahead. I'm sorry to get sideways.
Okay. My recommendation was to be that if we are going to open up the restrooms, that we meet the state guidelines. And state guidelines call for twice a day cleaning. And there's also a clause in there that you can post a sign and do something less than the recommendation, and that's on the user. I don't think that's perhaps the best track. I think if the council wants to open those up, they should consider dedicating the resources towards making that happen. Bring in and if it's a weekend issue and we need to hire a contract person or somebody to come in and do it a couple times a day to meet that standard, we're doing as much, they're meeting or exceeding the guidelines, not doing something less than the guidelines.
Hey, Keith, Councilor Locke, you have a relationship with Dan Brown. Is there any chance that Community Action is still willing to help assist, maybe with a cleaning? By guidelines, it sounds like one cleaning. They don't have to be there, but maybe over the weekend.
Well, that's.
And CAT is stretched way beyond what the city is stretched right now, so I have issues asking them for any extra thing.
Okay, well, it was part of our presentation a couple weeks ago.
For the showers, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe Sue can talk about resources. Perhaps it's overtime, perhaps it's a contract person through Cardinal or somebody like that. Or perhaps you want to put a sign up and take the risk.
Throws up.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like if we clean them any less than twice per day, there would have to be signs posted. So would it be, if we're going to post signs, then we're not following the recommendations, we're taking that out for that. So if there's, obviously staffing right now is critical with parks, being that there's normally 4 people and there's only 3 people. And I'm sure, Mayor, that as you mentioned earlier, the grass continues to grow, and it's growing. They are mowing constantly.
Yep.
So to clean the restrooms is basically about, for once a day, is about 6 to 8 hours total. So to do that twice per day is going to take more than one person away from mowing, which means at least a third of the park resources will have to be diverted just to cleaning restrooms on a daily basis. If we try to alter schedules so that they're staggered and you have an employee come in on the weekend to clean the restrooms, they're going to be, that's all they're going to do. They're going to go from one restroom to another and then start all over again and do it all over again. So their entire day would be diverted to just cleaning restrooms on the weekend, which obviously that, you know, that's a doable thing. But that person that's all they're going to be able to do, which means there's not going to be any of that mowing or other parks maintenance. And Councilor Carlson also mentioned, you know, what our parks are lovely. We have beautiful parks. They're a wonderful place to visit. Obviously, the maintenance of that is going to be deferred considerably if we have to resort to diverting at least one, probably 1.5 employees over to just addressing the restrooms. We could potentially hire outside services to do that. The last time we contracted with Cardinal, it took us over a month to find an employee through their service that was even interested in applying, and that was for regular parks work. So to have hire an employee to do restroom work, you know, maybe there's enough people that are working with their service that would be interested in applying for that right away. But obviously anything we do to bring in extra services is going to take additional time. But that's definitely an option that we can look into.
How many bathrooms do we have?
4.
McCormick, Columbia View,
Great Cliffs, and Campbell.
It takes 8 hours to clean 4 bathrooms?
That's also picking up garbage. So I say 6 to 8 hours to restock, clean, go from restroom to restroom, and then that's picking up garbage in those areas and other locations.
Maybe we should hire a private consultant and see how long it takes them.
You could also
and see what type of a thorough job they also do.
Doesn't mean you have to open all 4 park restrooms.
Mayor, let's team together and get a hazmat suit, and we'll do it together here some weekend, okay?
You know what? I'm not opposed to that. I'm not afraid.
I'm not either.
I put rubber gloves on and get right in there.
Well, regardless of the opening time, it sounds like we have an issue that has to be addressed, because what I'm hearing from staff is that there is no plan to reopen restrooms.
Yeah.
Because what you're telling me right now is they're all mowing grasses and nobody gets a clean bathroom. And so that's a problem. Because that's telling me right now, if we didn't have COVID, we'd have filthy bathrooms.
Well, typically, no, that's their first priority. It's the twice per day that would make it the most difficult at this point in time, since we're not able to backfill that one position. When we had all 4 positions filled and cleaning the restrooms once per day, that was and not having to worry about covering a weekend shift as well, that's a normal staff activity. So of course our restrooms are cleaned, thoroughly, garbage is picked up, etc. During a normal work week.
Yeah, it just sounds like we need some work on what it takes, because it's like you have to have restrooms. You can't. There's no point in even opening the parks if you don't have restrooms.
And I would say that whatever Hudson, I don't know what the charge is, whatever Hudson is going to offset maybe the other cleaning that was budgeted in. Might close to probably 100 a week, I guess, per porta potty is what it used to be. I don't know what it is now. I don't know what we're contracting with Hudson right now. But that cost goes away.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I agree with Jenny. What I'm hearing is that we're not reopening anytime soon. That's what I hear.
Who from?
Well, we don't have the staff.
Again, we're talking about all different scenarios here. So if we're talking about splitting up our staff, having some people come in and to be able to cover the weekend and then still cover during the week, now you're spreading everything out and having to clean them twice per day instead of once per day. that's a completely different scenario than a normal opening, having the normal cleaning once per day in the mornings, Monday through Friday, like we always do. You're talking doubling the work and splitting the staff up, plus having the cleaning happen over the weekend. So totally two different scenarios. Opening them up under regular circumstances
So
would
garbage
not
only has to be
be
done.
enough.
Garbage only has to be done once a day. Basically, what
Yes,
has to be done.
I agree.
it has-
Yes.
What has to be done twice a
You're
day.
correct.
Hosed down and disinfectant sprayed and hosed down. That should be able to be done in an 8-hour day. You should be able to pick up garbage, disinfect. In my opinion, Sue, this is my opinion, and I'm entitled to it.
Yes.
I know what I'm capable of, and if you guys want to hire me and put me as up there in a parks position that's worth that because I'm Superman, I'll do it. But is that they should be able to pick up garbage and sterilize and then flip right immediately back around and sterilize with this disinfectant and what hose down. No problem.
Sure.
In an hour day. Or bathrooms we're talking.
No, I absolutely understand what you're saying.
And I recommend actually a janitorial service if we are going to actually hire. We hire a private contractor, a janitorial. We don't go through Cardinal. We hire a janitorial service.
Yeah, that was a suggestion that somebody had, so
and I think it's just an 8-hour day, and if that's what we have to do, then I guess that's what we have to do. We'll have to budget for it.
yeah, and a private contractor would also have, different rules obviously with our staff. They're required to take breaks. They're required to take a lunch. So, there's the time to deal with those things because they have to go back and to their shop, and it's there's some inefficiencies there.
So Mayor, I want to reflect on the discussion that we had, not the argument, but the discussion.
Yes,
and you have answered my question about staff, who's going to do it, and liability. And we're covered if we do a consultant out of liability, and we're covered with staff as well. So you answered the question, and I appreciate that. It wasn't an argument, it was a discussion, and I think you came up with a good answer.
Would you be willing to make somebody will be willing to make a motion that the staff put out an RFP or not even that, just call local, whichever one responds first, local house cleaning or janitorial services, whatever one will answer our call and say they will perform the duty. Somebody willing to flirt with a motion to get this going.
Hopefully they include like licenses and insurance kind of things.
Yeah, yes.
It's a minimum, sir.
Right, somebody that's already in business.
Huh?
That's already licensed to do the work.
Yes, yes. A local.
I'd like to make a motion to instruct staff to move forward in making arrangements to comply with opening the restrooms.
Anybody gonna second that?
Is there a time limit with that?
No, because they have to move forward in doing it, and they have to put the things in place. But if we don't instruct them to even start, it's not gonna even happen.
I get that. Okay.
We need a decision though in say a week time, something like that.
Yeah.
Some information.
Yeah, we need, that's my question, Keith, is when are we going to hear about this? Are we going to hear about it 2.5 weeks from now at our next council session?
No.
So are we going to hear about it by email? How are we going to hear about it?
Well, what does it matter? The bathrooms get open. Are we going to micromanage everything? If they call a contractor, so here's my thing, is if we go off of our business license and look at who has a business license for janitorial or house cleaning services within the city, we start there. We call them, we ask them, do you have a $2 million liability insurance? Are you interested in doing this work? And how much will you charge us?
So my recommendation would be that you direct staff to conduct an informal process to get somebody in place as soon as possible that's licensed and qualified to do the work on an interim basis, throughout this, until.
So moved.
I amend the motion.
Okay.
Second.
A motion's been amended. So moved. Who seconded it? Who moved it?
I'll second that.
Okay, we had 2 seconds, but Doug got you first, Keith. Okay.
Touch out.
Motion's been made and seconded to let staff hire somebody to clean the bathrooms. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Okay. So we have that figured out. Whoa, man, this COVID stuff's exhausting you guys.
Thank you, Mayor, for the discussion.
All right, so it sounds like we have some other plans in moving forward with City Hall and plexiglass and PPE and all that in place.
Part 2, because I kind of lost the connectivity of talking about the kids getting to practice on the fields. Are we going to instruct people to get clarity on whether we can allow people to practice?
I think we can wait until our next meeting for that. Yeah, what do you think?
I would like to make sure we have an answer, not just a conversation.
Maybe we can make up our mind by the next council meeting, put it on the agenda, and our answer will be then. Because now, if we get into this discussion now, we'll be here till sunsets.
No, I don't mean to decide
and
today.
Fishing is not allowed.
No, I mean to be prepared to make a decision next meeting.
Yes.
That's what I meant. Not to discuss it next meeting, but to be ready to answer it next meeting.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify, we're saying that the council wants the fields to remain closed?
Or
remain open until further discussion.
Because they're open now, right? But they're asking about.
Technically, that's a discussion. Some people say no, some people say yes.
For reservations, I think we're talking about reservations for practice. Is that correct?
Correct. We have people that are asking for practicing for reservations, and I know Sue is of the opinion that the field should be closed. I'm of the opinion that it should be open. And so we're looking for a little council direction.
You heard me. Everybody knows where I'm coming from.
I think if the field is open and they want to go play, they can go play. But to officially make reservations prior to knowing what our liability is seems like we know more information before we legally sanction it.
I agree.
I'm okay with opening as long as they follow the suggested rules.
Yeah, I don't know the rules enough to make an official decision to say, yes, make reservations.
Yeah, the guidelines are more activity-based. The things like horseshoes are out, Frisbee's out, maybe not disc golf, but, the high contact piece of it, right?
Right.
Things are like that. So it's, my perspective, the parks are open. It just depends on the use of what you're doing there.
Right.
So, but as of right now, they are open, but we are not going to take reservations. But if the field is available, and they're welcome to play.
Well, actually, some of the fields are locked because we've had people go onto them, and they are, ruining the fields by they're not taking care of them and getting in there when it's too wet to really be on them.
Okay.
So the fields were locked, but we've had people actually physically break down the gates and go out onto the fields.
Yeah.
Well, can we instruct our park supervisor to open the gates when it is not wet? And they won't do that kind of destruction, and his kind of decision saying, okay, this is okay to open it up today. I mean, that's what a field supervisor's for.
And that's correct. But right now, because of the rain that we've been having for the last 2 weeks, they're closed with a sign on them that says these fields are closed to prevent damage. And yet the gates have been physically broken down.
So but that's a different subject than what we
it is a different subject. Yeah. Yes, I agree. The concern I had with opening them and taking reservations is that implies that we are allowing the more than 10 people in. I know that a lot of the rules have changed to the 25 people in a place, but the rules that I saw for the parks still indicated that we were supposed to discourage any groups larger than 10 people congregating for any activity, hiking, or anything else going on in a park. And so by taking the field reservations, that we would be implying that a teams or multiple teams could go out to play together, which obviously are going to be more than 10 people. So
we all agree with
that.
that. Yeah, we all agree with that assessment, and we're going to talk about it, Councilor Carlson, I believe this next, at our next meeting, and we'll come up with a decision at that time. But until then, if the parks, if the baseball fields and whatever are safe to open without damage, I see no reason why we can't open them up.
So here, I just played devil's advocate because I love it. All right. Here's the deal: is the parks are open. Governor opened the parks, right? There's no doubt about that. And those parks bigger parks can easily hold 300 people right now, and there probably are sometimes 300 people at these parks. So my devil advocate is you have actually two groups, because I'm not on the same team as you. And we're a group of 10 and a group of 10, technically. Now, everybody else in that park is not part of my group, but the governor's allowing that. Do you see where, and I get the horseshoe, John, because you're touching the horseshoe, and then the other person's touching the horseshoe. But everybody can pump gas at this. Everybody's grabbed that nozzle. I don't get no disinfectant, but I can pump my own gas right now, and it's never wiped. I'm just playing that devil's advocate here, as this is where the world that people are living in. Why
I understand that, but what's your point?
We're just stating the guidelines. That's what it says.
No. So, but the guidelines are gray, is what I'm saying, Doug.
Sure.
Technically, two teams of 10 meet the guidelines. A group of 10 or more, but it does not say only 10 people can be in that park.
Oh, no, you're right about that.
Yeah.
I just, again, for the liability issue, that was the concern for taking reservations. Opening the fields is a different issue. It was the taking reservations, allowing teams, which typically have more than 10 people on them per team, plus then you have two teams playing. I didn't want to imply that we were not complying with those guidelines.
Usually you have 12 per team, which is still under the 25.
It's under the 25, but exceeds the 10 that was in the guidelines for open spaces.
So right now, the Lano Club nonprofit is open to 25 people, 6-foot distancing in a small building, but 25 people on a baseball field is not okay.
It's okay with me.
Matt, I'm okay with it too.
There's a person in the audience that is raising their hand, and I don't know who Brian is in the audience, but that person keeps raising their hand.
Okay.
As of right now, it's up to the mayor if he wants to hear that. Normally, it's only under public comment.
Typically, Brian, but I've been sitting there for a while, and I will allow you to chime in for a couple minutes here, if you can limit it to that. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm president of the Town Little League, and I know we suspended our season, and we're hoping for a summer season. But if we were to practice, it would only be for practicing no games at all until at least July, if that happens to be. So I was just kind of chiming in to see what you guys were going to say. So that's my input. I can't speak for softball, but that's the way baseball is for right now.
Typically, you're 12 a team, maybe 13 tops, right? But 12 is average, right?
Yeah, we would have 12 kids and 2 coaches, maybe 3 coaches. So
okay, so you're right. You're right in that area of yes. that area of group.
I just don't have a problem with practicing where when you have competition, then you have more parents, you have grandparents, you have a big group. But if they're just practicing, we're not talking about having 50 people there.
That's correct.
Big enough.
Yep.
I think the field's big enough for practice, and I think the kids need to play.
So, Brian, I think what we're saying is that other than the conditioning of the field would be a reason we wouldn't allow somebody on. But what I hear this council saying is, yeah, let's not restrict, let's not do reservations quite yet, but we're not restricting you from practicing. But do they have to make reservations for Little League to be able to do that with our agreement?
Technically, their reservation is, we don't do exclusive reservations anymore. If Brian came to a situation where there was somebody else playing on the field, then that's where the exclusive and the reservation would come in hand. Brian, do you ever have any issues with people playing on the field when you should have access?
Usually not. We reserved our spots this year because of the new reserve thing, but we ended up canceling them because of the whole COVID-19 thing.
Correct.
So we haven't even been practicing or anything. So usually there's nobody usually on the fields when we do practice, though.
I think your youth need to learn the skills in order to be good baseball players, and hopefully we have a Major League Baseball player coming out of this class. I'm all for it.
Likewise, I think practices is totally different than games with opponents, and I think to diminish that is something that we don't need to do. And if we see that's what our park supervisor is for as well. He opens the gates for the public to utilize the ball fields because he feels that they won't do damage to it's dry enough that they won't do damage to the field. And there should be a bit of respect and rules to the road of how many people are around and how you can practice it. It takes some just basic communication. This is just going to be for a while until we get our permits going. This is a temporary thing. I think the mayor sees it as a temporary thing. I certainly see it as a temporary thing. I hope that we get back to opening up and getting reservations as soon as possible.
Agree. So I think you have pretty much a census of, that we want to go through the process of opening up the fields unless sods get ripped up, is what I heard. The condition of the field could get damaged. Other than that,
unless something changes with the governor or changes with the grass.
Here you go. Okay. All right, Matt. So you got an answer there.
Yep.
Okay. So like I said, this COVID stuff's exhausting. I think we're going to have some answers for our next meeting on you're going to go ahead and start, once you get plexiglass and all that stuff, you're going to do a soft opening kind of for the city, right? That was part of our discussion. And then the other one was once we got the contractor to clean bathrooms, that they would be open.
I just got the list of all the janitorial services that we have business licenses for. So
excellent.
Great.
Good.
Great. Mayor, I've got a suggestion. Can we defer on our agenda items 4 and 5, department reports and council reports, and do them all at once tonight in our regular meeting?
What time is it?
Go on with our executive session now. It's 4 o'clock, and I think that would be appropriate to do. That's my suggestion.
Well, I would like to hear from the department heads. I don't mind doing our council reports for sure.
Okay.
I can wait till tonight.
Okay.
So let's go ahead with department reports, and let's go to Chief Greenway.
I'm not going to belabor this. Sue, can you? this is the first I'm hearing about damage to city property with somebody breaking down a fence. Did you guys call the police department, report it?
They did not. They did not. They
love it.
They found the gate this morning, broken off of the hinge side. There's one gate to get into the fields. It apparently happened last night.
Okay, can whoever the point of contact is call the police department, file a report so we can ensure that we do our due diligence of finding the culprits and some kind of prevention plan, so we have extra patrol in the area to prevent that. So thank you, Sue.
Sure. Yeah, I'll forward you a photo of the broken
Mr.
gate.
Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Council.
Yep.
We need to add that to our parks policy as well.
Sue Nelson.
I was just going to mention that the water line replacement project is wrapping up. They've finished all the water line portion of it, and they're working now. There's a small storm drain portion that was included with the project, and they're working on that now on North 11th Street. We're also getting ready to start a sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, which is repairing a few pieces of pipe and replacing and rehabbing some manholes in multiple places all over the city. And that contract was awarded at the last council meeting. That contractor is gearing up to get started within the probably next week sometime. He's been doing his submittals. And also, I just wanted to mention that this week is National Public Works Week, and I really want to throw a big thank you out to all of our hardworking public works employees that you guys know, you ask them to do something and they get it done. They're just a great group of guys, and I couldn't be more proud of them. Unfortunately, we can't do our normal public works breakfast like we normally do this week, but I hope to still have that maybe sometime in June or July, depending on how the gathering rules relax in the next few weeks. So,
We have some ambient noise.
Matt, will you mute Tina? Thank you. Sorry, it was driving me nuts.
My fault.
Oh, that's okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Margaret Jeffries, library.
Hi.
Hi.
As far as the library is concerned, we're still have a lot of activity over here related to the refurbishment. The flooring and all the major public areas, all the painting and the flooring is done. The auditorium seating has not been reinstalled yet, but that's really not a priority given that managing that meeting room for gatherings is kind of not an issue in the short term. And I do, while I'm on the subject of meeting rooms, I do think that they will remain closed for quite a while. Offering the auditorium to the public, particularly when we would be trying to create physical distancing in the auditorium, as well as cleaning up after those meetings. Some of those things are just going to be problematic in the short term. What I would like to report is that the state librarian has developed a draft document on reopening guidance for libraries, and it is before the governor for her approval, as well as the Oregon Health Authority. So libraries are waiting for that document to become formalized. So some of the questions I guess I see, or the needs I see in opening up the library, and I do see it as a phased approach,
yes,
is the first thing is there has to be personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies for the staff. And then my second question would be, Do we require the public to wear a mask? And if so, do we supply those masks? And what are our courses of action in the event that people coming into the library refuse to wear a mask? And in that same vein, if we purchase a temperature sensing device to determine whether or not people have a fever or not, then what kind of actions are we at liberty to take as far as saying you have a fever or elevated body temperature and you can't come into the library? And then do we take that to the next step of this person is coughing and sneezing? Do we ask them to leave the library? And so I think some legal guidance is necessary for this. There's a whole list of questions that have been developed for our legal counsel as it relates to libraries, and I'm sure a lot of it applies to other areas. But I mean, with the recreation program being essentially shut down for the summer, the library is the big department, other than maybe parks, that has this management issue of people in our facilities. And because the library is a closed environment, I think it's a little different from the.
It's a lot different, Margaret. I agree with you, a lot different. And even though it's City Hall, who's got the background noise? That's annoying.
It's kind of an echo.
Yeah. So what we're talking about, even down at City Hall, is maybe 150 square feet of where public would actually enter. You've got a, what is it, 5,000 square foot building? Is it that big?
Yeah, I think it's bigger than that. I think we have 6,700. But I guess what I was going to say for us, this phased reopening would probably begin with what we're calling curbside service. And that would be where people place holds on items. We bundle them in plastic wrap and have certain hours when people can drive up, and we walk out the door, put their bundle on a table, we walk away after, of course, we verified that they're who they say they are. They may have to show us a driver's license or a library card through their window. We put the bundle on the table, they get the bundle off the table after we've walked away. And that's pretty common format that libraries are proposing. Bringing people into the building for computer use is a whole another level of service that has a lot of additional questions to be answered. It isn't a simple matter of us having plexiglass shields at the front desk, although we are working on that. Our service to patrons doesn't involve us being in a static position all the time. So some of the reference questions we answer, the reader's advisory that we do, computer help, all those things are going to have to change, and they may, in some cases, not exist for a while. I mean, I can't show somebody how to log on to an application by standing 6 feet away and yelling at them, and we don't really have the ability at this point to remote into their computers and take control of their mouse and show them what they need to do. So these are things, levels of service that we're going to have to evaluate. And I guess the last two things I'd like to mention is, one of the first things we have to do before we can let the public in the building is make sure that our staff has environments where they can work. And right now, some of our staff are just on top of each other, basically, in the course of a work day in our workrooms. And so I have gotten some data lines added to the Armstrong room, and I have plans to subdivide the Armstrong room into 2 offices. And it may be that we use one of those as our library office room that can look out into the parking lot and be the area where we serve the curbside service, because we'll have a computer and a phone and be able to do that checkout. So we're already starting to figure out how we can create some of that separation. Gretchen may work in the makerspace. We'll have data lines in there. So that may be her new office. But there are just a lot of details to be worked out. And I really want to make the council aware that we are actively looking at this, but I think there are a lot of implications for the number of people that we can have in the building based on our square footage, the amount of space that we're going to have to devote to quarantining materials as they come and go. I mean, we're already quarantining the materials that are coming into the book drop now for 3 days. And so we can't have those materials where people can help themselves to them. So, I mean, the whole thing is huge. And so I guess the biggest concern that I have is that people are anxious to have service, and they're anxious for the library to be open, and we want to serve them. But I think we have to balance the safety to the public and the safety to our staff and the service that we want to offer. And so I just want to let you know that it's complicated, and we're working on it, and I expect us to have a phased approach. That's all.
Okay,
That's a lot, but that's all.
We understand that you'll probably be the most difficult opening for any of our facilities will be the library, just because of the space. How do you track where people have been to wipe down? It's very difficult.
A lot of libraries are closing their stacks because, you know, if somebody touches something, you have to quarantine it for 3 days. You can't wash library books. So
No, you just have to let it wear off. Yep.
So
we'll
keep you
hopefully
posted.
we'll learn a lot more about this thing in the future.
Matt, Margaret is talking about delivering stuff at curbside. And identification means you have to go out to the car. Is it possible with our TV system that we have a high-grade lens that they can identify by optical means rather than personal touching? Is our system available to do that, or is that something totally new?
For checking what?
We're going to have to know that this person is Sam Smith and he has a library card. Right now, the idea is somebody goes out to the car and he shows them the 2 cards.
Steve, when I got tested, they just simply press their cards up against the windshield, if that's your concern. Take your card out, press it against the windshield. You're still, you still got a window between you and the person outside. So yeah, that worked very effectively.
Yeah, no, not very effectively. I want them to press the cards up against the windshield, as you say, but I want a TV camera looking so I don't have somebody coming outside.
Well, you'd have to have a TV camera, then you'd have to have a phone because they would have to contact, because who knows who's driving up for what. And
the question is, does our system allow an addition or an automatic easy addition to a TV camera?
No.
Okay.
The easiest solution would be to get something like we have our tourism cameras on top of our building, and those are basic security cameras that connect to a Wi-Fi device. And they're a live feed. You could do something like that, but there wouldn't be anything enough to zoom in on a specific window to see a picture of someone.
That's what I was looking for. A specific, continuous feed TV system.
Yeah, I think what you really need is a Walgreens pharmacy drive-through. And I don't think that's going to be possible at the library.
It was just a thought there, Matt. If the system that we have now for our electronics could be clipped in quickly.
But I hear that.
I am not aware of any current system that would be available.
But I hear Margaret has the best possible solution to the problem.
Without a doubt.
Is what I heard. So
yeah.
Good job.
Good work, Margaret.
Thanks.
Okay. Matt, what do you got to report on?
Well, a couple things I wanted to just mention on tonight's agenda. 2 things. One is the CIS cybersecurity policy. That is a resolution to approve number 1882. This is a blanket kind of basic policy from CIS that we have to pass tonight before they will actually renew our insurance. We are currently rewriting a new specific policy to St. Helens, but we are still probably at least a few months out from that, working with our current IT team as well as our more power team to rewrite those policies. But this is just a basic blanket cybersecurity policy that is written by our insurance to approve. We already meet all the qualifications and requirements of the policy, so there's no drastic changes or anything, but this is just a policy that you have to agree and pass for them to renew our insurance. The second thing on the agenda is the salary schedule edition, and I don't know if Sue, you might want to just quickly mention that if you have a second.
Yeah, so while we're looking to hire a replacement for Howie, our water filtration facility supervisor who retired at the beginning of this month, he has agreed to remain on as basically part-time on-call hourly needs to help either fill in when Guy takes time off, which he's at his vacation max, so he does have to take some time off during the months, and also to fill in being on call every other weekend or so. So there wasn't a specific line item in the budget for a temporary supervisor, water filtration facility supervisor position, so that's just kind of filling that in so that it allows him to remain available for those very limited amounts of time.
Yep.
Thanks, Sue. So I also wanted to let the council know that we did submit a reimbursement form to the state this morning for almost $20,000 for our COVID response. That includes some money that was allocated by the council to the food bank, as well as the humanity.
Yep.
A couple other, there are a couple other things in there, as well as any reimbursable expenses that we could really relate to this response. The only other thing was that the current police officers, other than Brian Greenway, our chief, are receiving a $250 stipend of hazard pay since they are in the field and dealing with things constantly. So that is available for reimbursement. So that those expenses we have applied for reimbursement, and we'll let you know as soon as we get those back in. One thing I did want to bring up on relation to reopening the city is I've been chatting with Shauna. Shauna's been talking with some of her peers that work in Parks and Recreation around the state. And Shauna has worked really hard to try and figure out a way that we could economically and safely do summer camps this season. And we've contacted our staff that were laid off during the COVID process. A very limited few of them are available to even come back because most of them have either found other jobs or are getting ready to go to school in the fall. And so I would like to get the council's okay to cancel summer camps for the recreation program this summer. And that would be the in-person summer camps that we just started last year. There's just not a way to hire enough staff that we need and make it work economically with the limitations that we have to follow through the state and the county guidelines as far as distancing, cleaning the bathrooms, just cleaning stuff like Legos after one kid gets done playing with it. And all of those issues kind of put together don't create a very economical and safe environment that we can provide for summer camps. So if the council is okay, I'd like to go ahead and officially recommend that we cancel summer camps for this season. I know Shauna is working with the library and Gretchen on some activity kits that they're going to put out through the food bank and some other places to have picked up for activities for kids. On top of building on that, Shauna is also working on additional activity kits that we can put together that we could possibly deliver to households and the community to to keep continuing the rec effort that we've built up a lot of great momentum so far, and we hate to see it just kind of die. So we want to try and do as much as we can, as safely as we can. So Shauna has been working with Gretchen and other organizations of recreation to create some activity kits that can be passed out and bought that will provide at least some opportunities for kids that are staying home. Is there any council discussion about?
No, cancel it. I mean, shit, we're having a hard time just getting the bathroom open and allowing people to practice.
Councilor Carlson, you are muted right now. So I see your mouth.
So, are you saying no rec this entire summer?
I'm saying no summer camps.
So there could be individual day activities come August.
There could be some activities if something changes and we're able to open and find staffing and do all that. So, but as far as the summer camps, the weekly camps that we have set up, as of right now, there's just no way that we think we can do it. If something changes in August or September, whenever we get back to these, we will definitely bring it. We want to bring it back as much as we can to the community and as fast.
I just, thinking about small groups, even small groups come August.
Yeah, right now the requirements for a summer camp program are basically limited to 10 kids, and they still have to remain 6 feet apart. So we have to have staffing to clean the bathrooms twice. We have to clean the Legos, everything they touch. Trying to keep kids 6 feet apart, at the rec center is a hard enough task just to think about in itself. So
yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, so not hearing any other arguments on that.
Kudos to you and the staff over there for getting the kits together. I think that's impressive.
I think that is all Gretchen at the library and Shauna at recreation.
Perfect.
So those two together have been rocking that.
Good work.
Just two more things. The other thing with Shauna is for a while now, she has been attending the Columbia County Childhood Trauma Informed Network. That is a network of individuals and organizations around the community, specifically dealing and discussing solutions and activities and opportunities with childhood trauma. And this very heavily plays into recreation as we have seen experienced in some of our after school programs. And we get a lot of different kids coming from a lot of different homes. And so a lot of that education and experience that we can bring from other organizations and within the community, Shauna can take that back to our staff and help that process. So what I have here in front of me, and you can't really see it, is just a kind of a partnership agreement that I would like your authorization or okay for John to sign. It has to be signed by the CEO of the organization, which would be our city administrator, John Walsh. And it basically is just saying that Shauna is our representative for the Trauma Informed Network, and she'll attend meetings and do all the trainings. So there's no cost or anything to the city. It's just being part of that organization to help build that support.
You need a motion on that, Matt?
I don't believe so. I think it's just a general consensus that you're okay with John signing that.
The only follow-up statement I have is it would be great to get a report.
Yeah, it can definitely be included on Shauna's rec report that we're going to start doing.
It would be nice to hear what the outreach is and what the penetration is for the community, because I know that my students, educators are very concerned about the kids at risk, because frequently a lot of these kids are in abusive settings at home, and if they're not going to school, nobody's reporting it. So there's a lot of kids, increase in spousal abuse, increase in a lot of drug use and stuff, and kids are in bad situations. So anything that she can report back to us and to the community would be appreciated.
Yep, I will make sure she knows that, and we can bring that up during her rec reports.
Thank you.
The only last thing I have is concerning our utility billing department. So it may seem far enough ahead in August that we're looking at. I know we're talking about reopening. Currently, we are not doing late fees on a month-to-month basis, as well as we're not doing shut-offs on a month-to-month basis. And I'm just curious, and my staff has been asking what the timeline is to kind of get back on schedule. We reviewed some of the all of the accounts that we've seen over the last couple months, as far as who's been late and who would be on the shut-off list, and the numbers really haven't fluctuated that much. So that means there's not a lot of people not paying their utility bills like they normally would. But to give you a rough timeline, if we were to want to start doing the regular process of late fees and shutoffs, and let's say we wanted to do a shutoff in August, that means that we actually have to work 3 months behind, which means in June, we put it on the utility bill that you receive of a potential notice for shutoff and a late fee. A late fee would get added in July, late July, after the due date of the 10th, and then they would get a shutoff call at the end of the July, and then in August they do a shutoff. So it's kind of like a 3-month process to get back to normal for starting those shutoffs. And I know it's probably not the best conversation to have in May, but I just wanted to get the council's opinion on their feeling of, do you want to continue doing this for the foreseeable future? Do we revisit it on a every month or bi-monthly basis for late fees and potential shutoffs? We do have a few accounts that are getting pretty high. So that's my fear, is that we kind of hit June or July and hit a date, and then people who haven't been paying have a $600, $700 bill, and we need to set up payment plans. And so there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you may not see that our staff has to go through. So does the council have any opinion or thoughts on how long to keep going?
In fact, you close one more thought to add Matt's comment there, is that this is tied to the city's declaration of emergency. So
yes.
And when is that?
So when that goes away, it seems to open that. At the minimum, it will go away when the emergency goes away. So.
Correct. Correct. So if you're potentially meeting on June 3rd at the next work session to discuss possibly lifting the state of emergency,
I don't feel comfortable lifting that when people can't even walk in and pay their water bill in person.
Well, that's why I'm hoping we can have the plexiglass by June 1st.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we're open, that's kind of the signal that we're back to business as usual.
I agree with you, Jenny, and I'm hoping we can have June 1st. We're going to be our official. I mean, that's a couple weeks away, right?
Yeah.
And it may be that June 3rd comes and you just look at it and decide that you want to extend it a couple weeks.
I think it should be when the declaration of emergency is done, then the 3-month clock starts.
Okay, just want to confirm and let you guys know that we still are not doing late fees or shutoffs, so we're still continuing as much as support that we can.
A lot of people hurting real bad though, so be nice.
That is all I have.
Okay, thanks. Kathy.
Yes, I was wanting to know if you still want to have your July 1 meeting. We talked about it in the past, but you didn't arrive at a definite having it or not having it decision.
Only if needed. Let's plan on canceling it unless we have a bunch of business that needs to be attended. We don't know what the future holds. But let's tentatively go ahead and cancel it, and if we have to do a meeting, we will.
Okay, sounds good.
I agree.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Okay. And then John Walsh. Oh no, wait, Tina, you gave a pretty good report earlier on summer events. Do you need to share?
I just wanted to see if you wanted to put on 2 sessions from now, maybe just a review of potentially some OLCC things that we could participate in to complement business. I've got some research done already, but I could go a step further and put it in your inboxes for review so that you could read it and have questions.
Yeah.
Have some information and knowledge just like I would at the time.
Hey, I'm not going to refuse anybody who wants to research and give information. No, absolutely.
Okay. And
Yeah.
maybe put it on the agenda for, a time frame that you think would be good to discuss that possibility.
Yep, I can do that, Tina. for
Okay.
sure. Okay.
Thanks.
Good idea.
Yep. Okay, John Walsh.
Okay, on the, I just want to make a mention that on the agenda tonight, or there's a public hearing tonight at 6:45, 15 minutes before the regular meeting, that regarding a community development block grant that the city has been asked to sponsor, that is the $50,000 request for purchase of a protective PPE. And the reason we're doing that is because the city's the only agency in the county that's is really set up to administer a block grant with the taking on the food bank. It's really quite an ordeal to get lined up to receive federal funds and all the paperwork that goes along with that. So they've asked us to do that they ask us that the council supports this public hearing, and then later in the meeting, there's on the resolution that is one of the requirements of receiving the funds. And
it's a big deal. We definitely.
Yeah. And that'll be one of two. There's another one for 100,000 that's following, but this stuff is just developed in real time. We don't even actually have the applications, and there's just so much support being pushed out right now. It's just coming out. It's really hard to keep up with it. And, I wanted to circle back on the introductions from the CCT member and Port of Columbia County. Thank them for their participation, and touch on the fact that the council has supported my participation in the board of CSET board to make it more local focused, more small business focused, and really community based. And I think they've done that. And normally we would allocate funds in the budget, which we have for this financial year, and then we get an invoice for that and we pay it. But because of the lack of, it wouldn't even be a council issue. It kind of just come through the AP. So I guess the reason that the staff hasn't paid that is we brought it to council. They haven't been real supportive of the past actions of CSET and just the performance based. But it seems like it's a new day. They've turned a new direction, and they're asking for this financial support, and I think it's well deserved. I just wanted to check back in on that, see if you have a change of heart.
Good idea.
It's a budget.
I support that.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. It makes me feel more comfortable on the board. when my board supports it, the council supports it. So it's just been really busy.
It'll be the same ask, right, John?
Yeah, it's 15,000. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
It's what we've done for several years, and so earlier this week, after a lot of hard work, a lot of consultant effort, drafting and creating, we resubmitted our build grant. I sent a copy of that out to the council. It's Build St. Helens. It'll be on our website under the Riverfront redevelopment if it's not there already soon. But and it's a good document that kind of gives you an overview of the whole aspirations of the city and the waterfront there, as far as connecting the roadways and building boardwalks, bring revitalization to the community. And it's technical in some places, but it's the general read is really a good document, and probably our best yet. And we're hopeful for that, and we'll know more probably typically around just Thanksgiving, December. That's when they let you know. But, so we have the Veneer property with the build grant. We have the Central Waterfront, the Lagoon project. There's some more work product coming out of the funds we've received from the state that I'll share with you shortly. It just came in this week. And then there's the the industrial park, and we're working with the consultant with the DLCD and that funding. And we had a walkthrough with the consultant earlier this week, and went through the draft parcelization plan to talk about the general future site layout, the proposed parcels, what they might be, and from that they'll develop a utility layer that'll address the water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure on the site. And the target market, there's economists working on it. they're looking at 10 to 30,000 foot buildings, 2 to 5 acre parcels. It's just general themes here, and properties that could be combined for a bigger project if a bigger project came along. So you'll have and also being sensitive to the wetlands and other sensitive land buffers and things on the site, because there's many. It's pretty heavily encumbered, but there should be opportunities and a good amount of building space there. Matt mentioned the reimbursement of expenses coming from the state, from the $200 million for our expenses. We picking up, this is a time when about a year ago we were talking pretty heavily about municipal broadband and doing a deep dive with that, and at the same time the county's been working with that. So we met with the county to see what they're in this world of digital and things like we're talking about now, Zoom. It is really imperative that you have good internet service. And just for the few people that haven't on this, even tonight on this call, that it's just really distracting when it comes off like a robot voice or something of that nature. But working with the county to talk about a coalition, a consortium of building a better internet system in Columbia County. So we've picked that up, continue to work on it, and other cities like Monmouth and Independence down there, they now service the city of Dallas. The city of Sandy's been doing it for a long time. Hillsborough is just about coming online. So we're meeting with those people, kind of plugging in, learning what they know, what went well, what didn't so much, and things of that nature. And lastly, on my check-in list here was about close to 45 days ago, you asked for a check-in on the Public Works Director interviews. The council had agreed to postpone it off for 45 days, and it's been just about that many days. So it's on my calendar, and just wanted to see what you want to do with that. So.
What can we do?
You can schedule them via platforms like this. You can wait for real person interviews in a time certain.
How many people are we talking about?
I'd have to check back with Kathy to see if the applicants that were interested 2 months ago are still interested, but 6 to 8 probably.
Travel right now is a real problem. A flat out real problem.
Yeah, there's definitely a human piece of, as good as these meetings are, as close as they are to reality, the virtual thing, there's still, from my perspective, there's something lost on the human side of it.
So I'd continue with what's the governor saying when we can do things like this? Are we going to get caught in the state legal?
Well, there's other factors as such, travel and things of that nature that might come into play as well.
Yeah.
For the rest of the council, I would just like to hear from you guys on this.
Well, it's tough to put somebody on an airplane today. I don't think I'd feel comfortable asking somebody to get on an airplane today. So that's different than having somebody go from their home in St. Helens into a council chamber, then get on an airplane.
Sure.
Why don't we contact all those individuals and see what kind of timeline they have, and then maybe make a decision.
Okay, so
yeah, my only thing is that we're I thought we were on a freeze right now. And I just thought we should kind of stay on a freeze and weather the storm. That's kind of my thinking on the idea, but I know we went through the process and we're up to that point. That's just my take on it. Is I know there's a lot of other positions that if we're gonna go ahead and do this position, we should probably take those into consideration too, which we don't have the finances to do that. Right, Matt? It's fiscally responsible to it's budgeted, right? I get that.
The budget is built upon, yes, there's a number, the budget is balances, but there's a number of positions that are currently vacant, and that would be kind of our safety net.
There are positions vacant. 3 of them are in the Public Works Department, though, and well,
the water filtration guy we have to get. Howie's only going to be here.
Correct.
So long.
Yeah, this isn't including Howie. But you have a Public Works utility that is open. You have a Parks utility that is open, and then you have a Public Works director. Now, from the discussions that I remember having, you left those positions open specifically until you hired a Public Works director for them to come in and make the decision if those positions were actually needed.
Correct.
So the only other positions that you are keeping open, we have a records evidence specialist from the police department, that is Melinda, and that left. And then you have a recreation specialist that was approved that we are not hiring until the recreation program is up and running again.
And we didn't hire the summer help.
Correct. You have not hired the summer help.
Yes.
It looks like the travel availability is really our limit. Until that gets to be reasonable, we have to keep a freeze on it. I think it would be courteous to ask each one of these applicants what their timeline is. But that's all I would go is.
Could you do it?
But keep the freeze.
Couldn't you do initial interviews over Zoom, and then if you liked a person, you could invite them later?
No.
I like that.
We could do that, yes.
Because by the time you actually get the interview set up, it's going to be mid-June. And then by the time you decide who to move on and making appointments for those that need to come to visit, you're into July.
Well known, but we may not be able to move people to July either.
Or I like the idea of going the initial interview on Zoom. It just takes it's a good, I think it's a good timeline.
I think it's better than keeping them on the hook for another 2 or 3 months with no information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes, some of the headhunter recruiting firms definitely kind of come through the first layer with video. So.
Right.
Not only that, but we're going to lose people if we just continue to push this off.
Okay. The way it's going now, you may gain people. It's a bizarre field out there right now.
So if we're done with that, my closing remarks for tonight were that we're just on the forefront of a lot of planning and engineering work with the Riverwalk, and I think it is when we look at the Veneer property and the Riverwalk project. There's a layer we're going to try to set up a backstop layer of funding with the state to complement the grant. We're looking at that in the near future, and then also just the architectural, the design, and I'd like to, and in the Veneer property, I'd like to conclude this redesign of the stage in with the Riverwalk, because I think it's imperative that they go together really well, and have an architect do that design and engineering. The Central Waterfront project is contingent on wrapping up some of their funding. We're trying to work with EPA to find additional funds to get to another level. And then as this industrial park comes together, we're going to be looking at, roadways and water and sewer and storm facilities and designs for all those types of things too, probably a lift station or two. And just a lot of work coming up down the pipe here.
And he's the keystone to a lot of those projects, or she, whichever it may be.
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
From both directions, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, John, on the update on the waterfront and Central Waterfront and industrial property. Let's keep moving forward. Okay, so with that, we decided we're going to skip councilor reports, and so we're going to adjourn, but we're going to be going into executive session. So I think all we need is Tim.
I'm not sure if we have much for an executive session, unless the council wants to talk specifically about something. There was a placeholder on the agenda to talk about some documents that didn't come through, so.
Okay.
I don't have anything for you.
All right.
As far as real property, if you want to talk with the attorney about something, that would be up to you.
Nope, I don't. I have nothing on those two topics. So with that, you guys want to do your reports, or you want to just adjourn and we'll see each other at 6:45?
6:45.
Okay. We're adjourned.
Lisa has a quick comment.
Okay.
I just want to remind you to, oh, am I mute? No. I just want to remind you to submit your votes so I can get a hold of the families before I take off.
I'll do that right now. Lisa.
Thank you.
I like your little control booth. You're like a little radio announcer.
I'm in a race car.
Work hard and be nice.
Here's the hot hits coming at you.
Okay.